Evening Space Dawn, it is your fearless leader, Buddha Black.
Fears. They speak multiple languages.
Yeah, I'm almost start the stream soon. I'm gonna start a new campaign. I don't know a lot about this game. I've seen like a let's play for it. It looks like up my alley. So I'm going to do to make it do.
People will look back and be like,
like, share if you're giving me a view.
That are freshmen in high school or coming up through ranks and stuff that may be impacted by NIL. Don't look at these years. What do we do? I mean, the game's changed forever.
Name, image, and likeness. 3 words that change college sports. By now you've seen some of the crazy bred college athletes get, and you probably fallen in one or two camps. Either you were a little bit jealous because these opportunities weren't there for us, or you're happy for the kids, but a little bit bored of getting smacked over the head with all these gaudy numbers.
Hide the money, y'all! There's poor people around!
Not long ago, NIL was the most interesting thing taking place in all of college sports. And I was like, cool, bro, that's love, man. I just got one question. Bro, when the game dropping? But as ready as I am to get my chance to play the new college game on my Series X, outside the $1 million paydays, there's a whole nother side to the NIL market that's not being talked about. While the most popular athletes are amassing generational wealth, some of these cats are getting a lifetime of financial hindrance. NIL scams run rampant in college sports. Because when the NIL money came, bro, the scammers came with it. Or maybe more accurately, they came to get it. They follow the money, bro, especially with inexperienced people have it. While most coverage of NIL is about big 6-figure deals, and ain't a damn thing wrong with that, so please don't take that the wrong way. The point I'm trying to make is that most NIL deals are small, and they usually...
They had no choice but to obey. They agreed to guide them through those Octane forests, hoping for peace and survival.
Since the NCAA agrees schools from giving legal advice, NIL deals in order to protect the school's liability. The smaller deals aren't often being poured over by attorneys, which for some scammers is a golden opportunity. Some of these shady companies and straight up scam artists have been sliding sleeves.
Here we are, Stuart.
Some even
No wonder our king chose you for this mission. You're more than worthy of this disgusting land. Are you sure we're in the right place? Where is that meek old coward who calls himself a leader?
My lord, I am Gord, elder of the tribe of the Dawn. I will guide you through the Lasati woods. But, if I may, where are your warriors?
The king's forces come when the time is right. Until then, we are your new masters.
As pledged, my lord. My tribe will follow the orders of the king's steward. They are your people now. I trust you'll take good care of them.
We will, if they do their work. Did they find a place to set up camp?
Yes, sir.
Oh no, Godspeed.
A good spot for the first Gord. A nearby pond should provide enough reeds and food to start a small settlement.
Oh, my man. Okay.
Get a box of us at the same time, or we should get a preview of those inside. That way you can decide if you want to distribute it or skip it entirely. Or maybe you want to just sit back and let yourself
My lord, please order our subjects to move. We should
Then when you come back in the house and your skin all dried up, this charcoal detox scrub will fix that immediately. I also got the beauty wipes which is great for overflowing the video, but better utilized for people clearing
My brother awaits your commands, sir.
video. Those former track star Ken Spencer was the first athlete to serve on the NCAA board. So you're talking about somebody who really on both sides of the play. When it comes to this, he's got a first and second place. And that's what I stand really to say. There's at least 5 student athletes that have no person who signed away their IP rights in the state of Florida. It's just like concussion. You're not going to see the detrimental effects now, but you are going to see it in 5.
Ratchet Wolves.
One of these kids is signed away with NIL. For example, that could mean an ex-athlete turned influencer having their company come back and demand 40% of everything they make on their channel. Maybe a late woman athlete who's 5 years from now has a thriving pro career. Say somebody like Brock Purdy. He wasn't a big deal in college. What if he signed one of these BS NIL deals and tricked him into signing away his NIL? Okay, so very extreme and hypothetical example. What if NIL was around back when Tom Brady was a backup quarterback for Michigan, signs a BS NIL deal, unknowingly signs away his NIL rights. Goes on to become a GOAT, but thanks to this BS deal that he signed back in college, now 40% of all the commercials, all his endorsements are going to this random BS company. That'd be wild. You couldn't even do a face scan for Madden without expressly considering people to scan you back in college. Getting messed over via paperwork is the reason that a lot of people have fears of hiring agents, managers, or it might actually be the reason you should have representation. Good representation is something you actually trust. The thought process of finding good representation is tricky, but it's similar to the thought process of going out to work. It ain't about how fast it goes, it's how much you can retain. See, the finance of the pillow isn't still in the character. Work is only good to say you're not necessarily looking for the person that promises to come in and rich. You're still looking for the ones who can keep you from getting robbed. The financial market, the value goes and they can't. With that said, there's a reason it's spent on the drugs to be smaller and somebody offers you a $2 million contract. You're going to spend a fraction of that on Gord to make sure that it's Gord. Then when the bills for like $300, price of the Gord, you can eat on the Gord for $300 quick bucks now. Post this shit on Twitter. Car wash, watch the new shoes, take my hair out. Man, people are serious about which is the reason they target all size deals in the first place. According to a former it usually doesn't make much economic it's impossible not to be any deal goes left, this thing coming back in a lawsuit against the university or against the NCAA in order to avoid that at this point, they just opted out completely. How do I still manage to be mad at the NCAA? It's because we never should have gotten to the point where the primary reason this landscape exists is such a good rule that the NCAA is necessary, ties directly into the never goes unnoticed. You deserve some reward. But no, come on, fuck it. Over a decade, they knew this was coming to my zero operations. I talked about this before. I played clips of Gord and other college football every year was talking about the same thing. But NIL didn't have to be the wild rice. But the fact that leadership failed so badly was made the transition a lot more.
We've reached the pond our scout told us about. It is indeed a fine location for a gourd.
If not stopped,
We have access to water, reeds, and other resources.
Instead of admitting defeat when they clearly had lost, and then finding a compromise that could benefit everyone. All of this, every man for himself, no one's name. And the pain it all traces NIL landscape is still in its infancy, but the scammers currently attacking it very discreetly. I've learned many lessons from industries like the music business. Got out a bunch of bad contracts with low-level artists, just hoping that they grow up so you can take all the money that you want to go to the side. This type of mostly legal scamming is an old trickery tool, but the next scam is only possible with today's technology. Artificial intelligence is going to be bad at least, but who can write games? It ain't like we've been making movies about this stuff for the whole 40 years or something, literally trying to warn ourselves. But AI is here and kind of like will people in charge sit back and be almost nothing to forget. At least my families and football players are on the state. Now, calls from scammers claiming to have their kids with this testing in order to keep them and turn the kid over to the larger authorities. Cash amount needs to be immediately paid for. Now, I know they hit your senses and it sounds like this, but your antennas are up and literally watching a video about scams.
Good. Palisade will keep us safe. Now, hold on, fool. This is just a minor stop on our way to the cartographer. He's waiting for us with instructions on how to reach the gold. I don't want to grow. My lord, I promise we will move on as soon as we have fortified the current position. For now, I suggest building a lumberman, forager's hut.
You can see how some parents end up actually falling for this scam. But Gary Oberman had a very distinct advantage over every other parent that's been targeted by the scam. Because when the scammers called pretending to have his son, he knew it was BS because his son was with him.
Folks, beware.
Gary Oberman's son is Oregon State tight end Jake Oberman. Last week, Gary says a scammer called him claiming to be an OSU campus police official. He told Gary that Jake was in custody for being drunk and disorderly and demanded hundreds of dollars.
And that if I paid you, then it was going to be swept under the table and not become public knowledge, nor would they have to turn my son into the state police.
What the scammer didn't know is Jake was home with his family on break. Gary says the scammers used technology to make the call sound more convincing.
It sounded good and it sounded authentic. You know, I think as mentioned earlier with the background noise that this gentleman had, like they were at a police department. Very clear, very understanding. It wasn't like I was talking to another country.
And he was smooth. He played along to try to contact the real police, hoping they can somehow trace something back to the scammers. But before Oberman could get the real police on the phone, the scammers called on Oregon State, 9 families were targeted. Of the 9 families, only 2 were real quick, let's
They said Arkansas, this gentleman said it was Jake security. I had your son 8 years, he's been arrested.
Allison Sarah says it's one of the worst nightmares for anyone, getting a call that her son was in jail. And on top of that, she was told she would have to pay $1,000 to get him out.
I panicked like I shouldn't have if I'm not sending money.
Sarah had just gotten back home to Ohio after watching her son Dean play in a UAPB football game. When she got the call, her son was asleep and unable to tell her right away that he was okay.
I went right into lockdown mode. It was like, oh my God, I can't count. I kept getting in a jail cell in Arkansas.
But Ferris is not the only one who's gotten a scary call like this. UAPB football coach Kyle Kramer says 3 other football families received similar phone calls within a few days of each other.
Thomas said, shape of and warm sugar experience that. And maybe you're more of a shape of expensive roses type woman. Whatever the movie, the blues, their experiences today.
The other 3 families were able to figure out it was a scam before paying any money.
And actually, Kramer, they went later as well. Because at first we just thought he was being targeted. I can't believe I fell for it, but my mom tells me she's calling her resident now, working on getting her money back. But in the meantime, she and that coach are hopeful that a story like this will warn people to not trust those psychopaths.
If you sit on the other side of the screen and you call it Red Dollar Bill, you might want to chill on that. It's different when you got kids. That's a different kind of love. She knew it was probably a scam. But as far as it wasn't, she just wasn't going to listen. Unfortunately, scammers feed off of it. It's like any decent village you have, somebody always trying to prey. That's why so many people gotta put up these walls, walk around with the knee up with your guard all the way up. Hopefully you can carve you out some safe spaces in your life so you can make up in ground every night. But throughout history, whenever technology advances, there's always a black market trying to use it for free ground. AI is no different when it causes a lot of issues. But it's doing some good too, you know what I'm saying, bro? It's how you use the tool. If the kids in high school now, you're probably thinking, dang, this the crap I gotta deal with once they go to college. And hopefully not, but, you know, maybe. And even worse, you might not even have to wait. Last year, USA Today published this article saying they spoke to 18 families of high school athletes who all unfortunately fallen into this scheme. According to USA Today, Twitter page that some of y'all may have heard of called E1000 scam parents and athletes out of tens of thousands of dollars from multiple different states over a 4-year period. The account offered recruiting help for overlooked packages. You go in your pocket and you pay them to get your kids taken from the scouts. Many people came to believe that it was just a scam. USA Today investigated and they felt this. Now, here's a quote from one mom whose son sent in $1,700 supposedly to Coach Hines at Eden. Now, it's almost like a little kid running out to the real Santa Claus to find out you just gave away your entire summer savings to a grown-ass man out here ripping kids. After the USA Today article, D1 Brown was suspended, but continued to pop up in the same bingo account. Claiming to have done nothing wrong, they came back with vengeance. A foolproof plan that made him be seen with it. So when they started a new account, they'd send out thousands of messages. College football coaches, coordinators, or whatever, offering a curated prospect list to help coaches recruit. In return, all they needed was a follow. There were 200 college coaches all took it. Once the kid was following, a lot of parents started to assume that all of them is legit. It's easier to fall for it than so as the reward of $14,000. USA Today covered out over 7 months. The last photo they saw of him was the largest last year. They said he was found with his hands in the south. On the other side of the story.
You can't slide these out, something wrong with it. I'm going to say it's a representation of who the team is, who their fans are, what they're fighting for, their history. There are a few other elements.
So I was sitting around thinking, gee, I sure like making videos about characters from the Book of Genesis, but I can't think of another topic in that vein to explore. Darn, I guess I'll delete my channel. But then Peter Morbacher hit me up and said, hi, I'm the creator of Angelarium. Would it be cool if I sponsored you to talk about my art book, The Book of Watchers? It's got a bunch of baller artwork of angels from the Bible and other Abrahamic texts. And I also wrote up a bunch of character profiles, short stories, and poems to tie them into my own fleshed out mythology. So maybe you could do that thing where you first summarize the original ancient myths that inspired my work, and then talk about how I spun it off into something cool and unique. Huh, wow, maybe there is a god. So the Angelarium's Book of Watchers is called Enoch and a mysterious group called the Nephilim. Enoch was the sixth descendant of Adam through the line of Seth, and he is a very, very minor character in the Bible itself. But the little information we're provided about him in Genesis at least hints at a larger story. Quote, Enoch lived 65 years, then became the father of Methuselah. After Methuselah's birth, Enoch walked with God for 300 years and became the father of more sons and daughters. All the days of Enoch were 365 years. Enoch walked with God, and he was not found, for God took him. Just a few verses after the story of Enoch, we get another curious and seemingly completely unrelated passage. Quote, when men began to multiply on the surface of the ground, and daughters were born to them, God's sons, likely referring to heavenly beings like angels, saw that men's daughters were beautiful, and they took any that they wanted for themselves as wives. The Lord said, my spirit shall not strive with man forever, because he also is flesh. So his days will be 120 years. The Nephilim were in the earth in those days, and also after that, when God's sons came into his daughters and had children with them. Those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown. After this, we suddenly jump into the story of Noah's Ark, where God sees that humans are corrupted by evil and plans to destroy them with a global flood. The so-called Nephilim are mentioned in the Torah only once more. In Numbers chapter 13, some spies sent into the land of Canaan claim to have seen the descendants of the Nephilim, and basically describe them as super tall dudes. When reading these passages today, it very much feels like we're missing information that the original author just assumed we would know. There were like stories about Enoch explaining why God took him, and stories about the Nephilim who sound a lot like your classic ancient folk heroes with divine heritage. But these traditions simply didn't survive, and later interpreters were left only to speculate on who these people were. A product of this speculation is the Book of Enoch, a Jewish apocalyptic text probably written around 300 BCE. This book attempts to elaborate on the story of Enoch that was only hinted at in Genesis. Now, the Book of Enoch is an apocryphal text, meaning today it's not considered authoritative by most Jewish and Christian sects, and therefore isn't included in most Bibles. The most notable exception is the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, which adopted a much broader biblical canon that includes Enoch. The first major section of the text is known as the Book of Watchers, and obviously that's where Angelarium got the name from. It describes how a group of 200 angels called the Watchers came down to Earth and immediately started thirsting after human women. However, Shemyaza, the leader of the Watchers, knew he would get in trouble with upper management if he had an affair with a moral. So he did the only sensible thing and made all the other Watchers swear to join him on this interspecies sex act. That way, at least he wouldn't be punished alone. The wives chosen by the Watchers soon gave birth to Nephilim, who were ravenous giants. And when the humans were not able to produce enough food for them, they expanded their diets to include pretty much anything that moves. Meanwhile, each of the Watchers began to corrupt human civilization by teaching the secret arts of heaven. Azael taught people how to use metal to forge weapons and jewelry, and also the use of makeup. Shemyaza and Hermani taught them how to wield magic, and the angels Barakel, Kokabel, Zekel, Ardakoff, Shamfiel, and Sariel each taught how to interpret astrological signs. And as all this was going on, the archangels Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel looked down on Earth and said, sir, you're going to want to take a look at this. God then put together a plan to deal with the insubordinate angels and their monstrous offspring. He would command the archangels to bind the Watchers and bury them in the ground to await their punishment on Judgment Day. Then they would destroy the descendants of the Watchers and cleanse humanity of its corruption with a flood that would wipe out everyone except for Noah and his family, who weren't actually born yet, so this plan would have to wait a minute. In the meantime, Noah's future great-grandfather, Enoch, was snatched up by the archangels and told to give the rebellious Watchers a heads up for the smiting they were about to do. Hey guys, so this dude was understandably upsetting for the Watchers. So they asked Enoch to write a petition as a desperate plea for forgiveness.
My lord, we don't have wine yet, but we do have making a great drink.
He then had a dream where the archangels took him to see where the Watchers were imprisoned and revealed the ultimate doom that day.
The basic comfort of staying within the range of a short flight.
Afterwards, Enoch woke up and returned to the living life to everyone's entering outside of the palace. Hey again,
But I would recommend the book.
yeah, you're still and that's about where the Book of Watchers ends. But the tradition of iterating on pre-existing mythology to add more depth and character has of course carried on all the way into the present day. Just like the Book of Enoch expanded on a couple short passages from the Torah, Angelarium has pulled from Enoch and other related traditions to create its own rich and, not to mention, gorgeously illustrated mythology. Angelarium's Book of Watchers tells the stories of the fallen angels from their perspectives, and we're provided a much more vivid sense of the angels' personalities and roles than ever before. Here, they're not just divine servants, but physical embodiments of nature and human psychology. Shemyaza, fittingly designated as the Angel of Pride, was the first of the Watchers to form a personal identity. He called his 199 brethren down to earth and bestowed them their names, and in return they crowned him as their king. And then each of the Watchers went forth to make their mark on humanity. Azazel, the Angel of Sacrifice, benevolently sought to help humankind, but his pure intentions tragically backfired when humans' use of weaponry surrounding a man called Enoch and a mysterious group called the Nephilim. Enoch was the sixth descendant of Adam through the line of Seth, and he is a very, very minor character in the Bible itself. But the little information we're provided about him in Genesis at least hints at a larger story. Quote, Enoch lived 65 years, then became the father of Methuselah. After Methuselah's birth, Enoch walked with God for 300 years and became the father of more sons and daughters. All the days of Enoch were 365 years. Enoch walked with God, and he was not found, for God took him. Just a few verses after the story of Enoch, we get another curious and seemingly completely unrelated passage. Quote, when men began to multiply on the surface of the ground, and daughters were born to them, God's sons, likely referring to heavenly beings like angels, saw that men's daughters were beautiful, and they took any that they wanted for themselves as wives. The Lord said, my spirit shall not strive with man forever, because he also is flesh. So his days will be 120 years. The Nephilim were in the earth in those days, days and also after that, when God's sons came into men's daughters and had children with them. Those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown. After this, we suddenly jump into the story of Noah's Ark, where God sees that humans are corrupted by evil and plans to destroy them with a global flood. The so-called Nephilim are mentioned in the Torah only once more. In Numbers chapter 13, some spies sent into the land of Canaan claim to have seen the descendants of the Nephilim, and basically describe them as super tall dudes. When reading these passages today, it very much feels like we're missing information that the original author just assumed we would know. There were likely stories about Enoch explaining why God took him, and stories about the Nephilim, who sound a lot like your classic ancient folk heroes with divine heritage. But these traditions simply didn't survive, and later interpreters were left only to speculate on who these people were. A product of this speculation is the Book of Enoch, a Jewish apocalyptic text probably written around 300 BCE. This book attempts to elaborate on the story of Enoch that was only hinted at in Genesis. Now, the Book of Enoch is an apocryphal text, meaning today it's not considered authoritative by most Jewish and Christian sects, and therefore isn't included in most Bibles. The most notable exception is the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, which adopted a much broader biblical canon that includes Enoch. The first major section of the text is known as the Book of Watchers, and obviously that's where Angelarium got the name for their book. It describes how a group of 200 angels called the Watchers came down to Earth and immediately started thirsting after human women. However, Shemyaza, the leader of the Watchers, knew he would get in trouble with upper management if he had an affair with a mortal. So he did the only sensible thing and made all the other Watchers swear to join him on his interspecies sex bender. That way, at least he wouldn't be punished alone. The wives chosen by the Watchers soon gave birth to the Nephilim, who were ravenous giants. And when the humans were not able to produce enough food for them, they expanded their diets to include pretty much anything that moves. Meanwhile, each of the Watchers began to corrupt human civilization by teaching the secret arts of heaven. Azael taught people how to use metal to forge weapons and jewelry, and also the use of makeup. Shemyaza and Hermani taught them how to wield magic, and the angels Barakel, Kokabel, Zekel, Ardakoff, Shamziel, and Sariel each taught how to interpret astrological signs. And as all this was going on, the archangels Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel looked down on Earth and said, sir, you're gonna want to take a look at this. God then put together a plan to deal with the insubordinate angels and their monstrous offspring. He would command the archangels to bind the Watchers and bury them in the ground to await their punishment on Judgment Day. Then they would destroy the descendants of the Watchers and cleanse humanity of its corruption with a flood that would wipe out everyone except for Noah and his family, who weren't actually born yet, so this plan would have to wait a minute. In the meantime, Noah's future great-grandfather, Enoch, was snatched up by the archangels and told to give the rebellious Watchers a heads up for the smiting they were about to endure. Hey, guys, so, you're kind of f***ed. This news was understandably upsetting for the Watchers, so they asked Enoch to write up a petition as a desperate plea for forgiveness on their behalf. Enoch began reciting this petition to God, but he got bored in the middle and fell asleep. He then had a dream where the archangels took him to see where the Watchers would be imprisoned, and revealed the ultimate doom that they and all others who rebel against God would face on Judgment Day. Afterward, Enoch woke up and returned to deliver God's response to the Watchers' petition. Hey again, fellas! Yeah, you're still f***ed. And that's about where the Book of Watchers ends. But the tradition of iterating on pre-existing mythology to add more depth and character has of course carried on all the way into the present day. Just like the Book of Enoch expanded on a couple short passages from the Torah, Angelarium has pulled from Enoch and other related traditions to create its own rich and, not to mention, gorgeously illustrated mythology. Angelarium's Book of Watchers tells the stories of the fallen angels from their perspectives, and we're provided a much more vivid sense of the angels' personalities personalities and roles than ever before. Here, they're not just divine servants, but physical embodiments of nature and human psychology. Shamyaza, fittingly designated as the Angel of Pride, was the first of the Watchers to form a personal identity. He called his 199 brethren down to earth and bestowed them their names, and in return they crowned him as their king. And then each of the Watchers went forth to make their mark on humanity. Azazel, the Angel of Sacrifice, benevolently sought to help humankind. But his pure intentions tragically backfired when humans' use of weaponry led them to catastrophe, and Azazel was the first of the Watchers to be blamed for corrupting men. Angelarium also takes extremely obscure angels from the Book of Enoch and other works who only get a passing mention, and makes them into more fleshed-out characters. Kokabel, the Angel of Stars, was a childlike Watcher who longed to return to the heavens from which he came. He possessed the unique ability to interpret signs from the stars, though nobody but him could make any sense of his prophecies. Zekiel, the Angel of Purity, aided humans by teaching them medicine, even though they were a bit put off by his creepypasta-looking face. He also tried his best to explain germ theory to them, but it was a bit over their heads. Barakel, the Angel of Lightning, attempted to teach humans how to harness electricity, and he was the first of the Watchers to fly too close to the sun and pay the price. His death would be among the first alarming signs of the Watchers' impending doom. And this is just a very small portion. The story of the book continues, you see how each of the Watchers respond to the bad omens around them, leading up to their ultimate demise and setting up the next phase of the story. Oh yeah, did I mention the Book of Watchers as part of a series? The Angelarium also has the Book of Emanations, which catalogs the heavenly angels Enoch meets after his ascension. This one's actually the first book in the series, but you can jump in with either. Now, these books are hard to find at a fair price on Amazon or secondhand markets, but on the official Angelarium store, you can get them both for $70 at the time of recording this video. That's $70 total, not a piece. And if you're as in love with Peter Moorbacher's art as I am, the Angelarium store also has countless beautiful art prints of each angel and other merchandise. Oh, and by the way, you can use promo code W at checkout to get 20% off any purchase. A lot of the time, learning about ancient mythology feels like trying to put together a puzzle with only a handful of pieces. So much information is simply lost. So I love seeing projects like Angelarium that expand on mythology to create a story and characters with the kind of detail we wish we could find in older sources. You can click the link in the description to purchase Angelarium's The Book of Watchers and explore the fascinating world they've created. And of course, don't forget to use promo code W for 20% off on your purchase. Thanks so much to Angelarium for sponsoring this video.
Introducing Enlightened Autopilot, your trusted virtual service employee designed to cater to customer needs through friendly, AI-driven conversations. Like seamlessly booking a flight in a mobile app for an exciting destination. After selecting departure and return dates, a proactive message engages the customer asking about a previous premium upgrade request. The consumer does want an upgrade, and Autopilot ensures the account is verified and secured before continuing the transaction by sending an SMS message to the account phone number. After the verification number is entered into the mobile app conversation, Autopilot completes the itinerary switch and invites the customer to return to the booking screen with all the changes reflected. A quick review of the itinerary, and the customer moves to complete the payment in a secure and convincing manner. Once the transaction is complete, a follow-up email is sent confirming the travel plans. Regardless of the channel or device the customer engages with your brand, Enlightened Autopilot is there to ensure seamless interaction.
Hi there, have you ever wondered where stuff like trees and birds come from, but most people's explanations aren't metal enough for you? Boy, do I have a religion for you, said first millennium pre-Christian Nordic civilization. My name's Jake, I came here to kick ass and talk about Norse mythology, and I'm all out of ass. So at first there was just a hot place, a cold place, and a whole lot of nothing in between. But then they started leaking and mixed their elemental juices together to make a big giant named Ymir, and he sprouted a bunch of kiddos called the Jotnar. Then a cow showed up from somewhere and whipped a dude into existence, and then he had a kid who had 3 more kids named Billy, Vey, and Odin, and they were like, wow, this universe is kind of boring, huh? So they killed Ymir, and he dropped approximately 6.5856 killion tons of materials, which they used to build a whole planet. But then the Jotnar were like, hey, it was kind of a dick move for you guys to kill our dad, then build a planet out of his corpse. Huh? Oh, hey, sorry guys, yeah, we can't hear you over this big wall we built, this big wall that encircles the entire Earth. Yeah, I don't know, can't help you, bye. And then they made some people out of sticks, and this guy Heimdall came and banged a whole population of them into existence. Then they decided Odin got to be in charge of everything, and in true chief deity fashion, he had a bunch of kids from various sexy goddess ladies, like Bragi, who's into writing poetry, Vidar, who likes Jotnar, and pretty much exclusively that, but he's very good at it. And then of course there's Baldur, who's a super cool guy that everyone likes. Literally everyone. See that squirrel? He's tied with Baldur. That rock over there? Baldur helped him move his couch last week. Sometimes he has bad dreams, but don't worry, it's probably fine. Nothing bad will ever happen to Baldur. Meanwhile, Odin decided he wanted to know how to do smart people things like reading and destroying people at trivia games. So he traded his eye to a guy named Ymir for a sip of his magic pool water, and then he vibed out on a tree for a few days trying to memorize the alphabet. And once he was super duper smart, he knew secret magical techniques for predicting the future. Alright, let's see what this one says. Don't make a sacred blood pact with a guy named Loki. He will betray the Aesir, and then he and his children will bring about the end of the world. Shit. So the Aesir tracked down Loki's kids, each of whom bore a striking resemblance to their mother and father. Jormungand didn't seem very threatening, so they just tossed him in the ocean. But then he hit a fairly significant growth spurt. Oh hey, a tasty looking tail. Ow, pain flavor. Then they sent Helen to Niflheim and put her in charge of managing all the dead people, except any valiant warriors who Odin calls dibs on. He keeps them at his place, you know, just in case he ever needs them for something. Fenrir was just a cute puppy, so a guy named Tyr volunteered to take care of him. But then he turned out to have a similar metabolism to his brother, which posed an issue. So the Aesir commissioned some dwarves to make a super strong magical rope out of various non-existent materials. Hey, Fenrir, we were just thinking of doing a fun little game with you, where we tie you up with this rope just to see if you could break out of it. You know, because you're so big and strong. Are you guys trying to imprison me for all of eternity? What? No, first of all, I am offended you would even say such a thing. We're just trying to play around here, you know, have some goofs. Okay, well, just to be safe, why don't we have one of you put your hand in my mouth, and then I'll let them go once you set me free. Yeah, sure, that'll work. That sounds fine. That sounds great. Let's do that. Alright, yeah, I'll do it. And wouldn't you know it, Fenrir was unable to break free. And Tyr was partially dismembered. Well, guys, I guess we should all give Tyr a hand. Aesir gods had some neighbors called the Vanir, consisting of Njord and his 2 kids, Frey and Freya. There were probably a lot more Vanir gods, but Vikings were bad at writing stuff down, and we don't have any information on them. So, to fill in the gaps, I just designed some original gods myself. Sure, yeah, they look plausible. They got into an argument over something with the Aesir, which led to some warring, beheading, burning, and impalement, you know, typical neighborhood drama, but they got tired of fighting after a while and decided to call a truce, and they signified their new friendship by all spitting into a bucket together. And, not wanting to let valuable god saliva go to waste, they decided to sculpt their spit into a dude named Kvasir, who was super smart and could answer any question. What region is the Victoria Crown Pigeon indigenous to? New Guinea. What's 2,347 divided by 3.681? 637.59847866742. I'll take your word for it. How many fingers am I holding up? None, because Jake was too lazy to give you actual hands. And so Kvasir traveled around the world sharing his knowledge with everyone he came across, until one day when he met 2 dwarves named Fjalar and Galar. Hey, what would hypothetically happen if we stabbed you directly in the chest with this knife? Well, there's a variety of possibilities, mostly fatal depending on which specific area you stab. For instance, if you severed my aorta, I'd die within seconds. Oh, that was a clever setup. And then they collected his blood and brewed it into magic beer, which granted them the ability to create beautiful poetry after drinking it, and they stored the rest inside 3 kegs to keep for themselves. Meanwhile, the dogs started wondering where Kvasir went and began trying to track him down. Hey, Fjaller and Galler, I've been trying to figure out where Kvasir went off to, and I heard you guys were the last people who saw him. Any idea where he is? A great tragedy. He choked on all his knowledge and died before us. Aw, man, that really sucks. But why did you choose to relay this serious information to me through a haiku? When life is at its darkest and sorrow consumes us, beautiful words can be a candle in the night. Fjalar. I don't know what the hell that was, but it's equally suspicious. Odin's onto us. We should probably leave here to keep our beer safe. The greatest tragedy is that the things we hold most dear are the things we must hide from the envy of others. Fjalar. Yeah, sure. Oh wait, I gotta keep the meter. Damn, haikus are hard. So they found a nice home owned by a friendly Jotun couple and politely asked them for room and board. And by that I mean they committed 2 more counts of first-degree murder. But they forgot about their son Sudan, who returned after picking up some groceries. And when he saw what the dwarves had done, he took them out to the middle of a lake to amicably settle their conflict. And by that I mean leave them on a rock to drown once the tide rolled in. Okay, I get you're mad, very understandable, but we can't swim, so... yeah, that's kind of the idea, though I'd be happy to let you back on board if you could offer me some compensation for my trouble, assuming you have something roughly equivalent in value to the 2 loving parents you murdered. Don't seek treasure from others. Seek the means to find treasure within yourself. My inner power. Fjalar. What the f*** does that mean? We have magic beer. Syllable, haikus are stupid. So Sudan took the beer kegs in exchange for sparing Fjalar and Galar's lives, and he hid them under a mountain and made his extremely lonely daughter Gunlod stand guard. But once word got around, Odin devised a plan to steal back Kvasir's remains and put on his best disguise. Then he went to the home of Sudan's brother Baugi and came across his slaves working outside. Hello, gentlemen. Just your average unsuspecting traveler passing through. How are your days going? Not super great. All our scythes have gone dull, so they're not good at cutting grass anymore. Also, we're slaves. Well, I can solve one of those problems, but probably not the one you were hoping for. And Odin brought out a whetstone and sharpened all their blades. Wow, these are super good at cutting grass now. What a nifty little device. This is almost as good as paid labor and the right to personal autonomy. At least I assume. And it can be one of yours for just 27 payments of $4.99. Oh, darn, we don't really have any money. No worries, I'll just give it for free to whoever can catch it. Haha, the classic make 9 people accidentally dismember each other with scythes trick. Works every time. And then he visited Baugi in his home. Hey there, I'm Bolverk, and I just wanted to inquire about this help wanted sign outside your establishment. Yeah, all my slaves just randomly killed each other. Dumbasses must have fallen for the old make 9 people accidentally dismember each other with scythes trick. I hear that one works every time. Well, I would be happy to offer my services. That sounds good, but I'm not super experienced when it comes to compensating people for labor. What do wage workers normally get paid nowadays? I believe the minimum wage in this province is a sip from 3 kegs of magical poetry beer. Oh cool, I think my brother has some of those, so I can probably hook you up. You're hired. And so Bolverk worked for Baugi that whole summer, doing the work of 9 men, and he totally crushed it. But when Baugi came to Sudden to ask for the magic beer, his brother refused to share it, so he and Bolverk started digging into the mountain there where the kegs were stored. And once they made a hole, Odin turned himself into a snake and slipped inside, leaving Baugi behind. Oh man, looks like I fell for the classic disguise yourself as a mysterious traveler, then plan a heist only to abandon your accomplice at the last minute by transforming into a snake trick. Not again. And once Odin was deep under the mountain, he saw that Sudan's daughter Gunlod was there guarding the magic beer kegs. Hey, how did you get in here? You better not be trying to steal my dad's poetry beer. Actually, ma'am, I came here looking for a beautiful young woman. And it looks like I found one. These have been the most wonderful 3 days of my life. I would do anything for you. Well, now that you mention it, I was wondering if maybe I could have some of your dad's poetry beer? I guess that's okay, but only 1 sip from each keg, alright? Cool, thanks. So, I gotta go. I'll call you. Alright, bye. And Odin turned into a bird and started booking it back to Asgard. And Sudung saw and started chasing after him, but Odin used a special maneuver to block his advances. And then he barfed up the poetry beer into 3 vats, securing it for the gods. And now Odin sneaks it into some people's drinks, granting them the ability to create beautiful poetry. And the portion that came out his other end gets served to mediocre animators.
Give dinner rolls a twist with Fleischmann's yeast to enjoy delicious results every time.
So Loki was the kid of a Jotun named Thorbaudi, but thanks to a blood ritual with Odin, they were actually pretty tight with the Aesir and Vanir. But every now and then they liked to pull some sick pranks on their friends, but it was all in good fun, and the gods were always good sports about it. Loki, did you steal my wife's hair? Yes, I did. Ow, my bone! Buckle up, buddy, that's 1 out of 206. We've got a long way to go. Or, alternatively, I could go see if I can find some dwarves to make Sif some brand new hair? That could work, but if you come back empty-handed, we're starting where we left off. So then Loki went and commissioned the sons of Ivaldi to make some beautiful new hair for Sif, and they even threw in 2 more sick presents for Odin and Frey. Wow, this problem was actually super easy to fix, and with these bonus gifts, the Aesir will probably owe me a huge solid. I wonder how I can ruin this situation for myself. So then they went to a dwarf named Brock and bet their head that his brother Atri couldn't make 3 even better gifts. Sure, I'll take you up on that bet, but I have one question. Sure, go ahead. Why do you do this to yourself, Loki? I don't know. So Atri got to work and told Brock to manage the bellows, and to not stop pumping for any moment until all 3 of his gifts for the gods were finished. But while they were working, a mysterious fly appeared from no discernible point of origin and harassed Brock the entire time. And he ended up getting distracted at the last second, causing the last gift to be botched. And then Loki and Brock brought their gifts to be judged by the gods. Thank you all for coming. My first gift is for Sif, who was recently the victim of a tragic theft committed by an unidentified culprit. But don't worry, because today I present to you I Can't Believe It's Not Hair. Made from the finest gold threads, I Can't Believe It's Not Hair fuses directly to the scalp upon application and grows like natural hair. Side effects may include redness, itching, swelling, burning, and other forms of mild to severe irritation. Do not use I Can't Believe It's Not Hair if you are diabetic, epileptic, anemic, or if you are nursing, pregnant, or may become pregnant. If you experience dizziness, lightheadedness, or nausea soon after applying I Can't Believe It's Not Hair, contact your doctor immediately. Wow, pretty good. Alright, I'll keep your other 205 bones intact for now, Loki. And up next for Odin is Gungnir. Alright now look, you take a regular old spear, you throw it at your enemies, sometimes it hits, sometimes it doesn't, but now your spear is gone, you just gave it to your enemies. Stop giving your weapons to your enemies, get Gungnir. Now look at this, 1 shot, 2 shots, 3 shots. It hits your target every time and then comes right back to you. You don't have to waste your time going to get your spear, and even if you did, guess what? All your enemies are dead now. Total life changer. Hey, I actually really like that. Yeah, very nice. Man, I wish I had a cool magic weapon. And finally, my last gift for Frey. Are you tired of transporting your heavy warships across land? There's gotta be a better way. Introducing Skidbladnir, the first fully armed warship that fits in your pocket. Wowee! And wherever you choose to sail Skidbladnir, you're guaranteed to have a favorable wind in any direction, or your money back. Thanks, Skidbladnir. Hey, that's cool. Super neat. I don't even remember filming that. Well, good luck, Brock. I hope you and your brother didn't mess anything up, because the competition is tough. Yeah, so my brother's first gift for Odin is called Draupnir. It's a gold ring that creates 8 rings of equal mass every 9 nights. How exactly is that possible? I'm not sure. My brother said something about quantum physics and dark matter. Huh, pretty neat. Anyway, next for Frey is this gold boar named Gulenbursty. It can run real fast on air and water, and oh yeah, it also makes for a good nightlight. That was kind of an incidental feature. Oh, awesome, I've always wanted a pet. And this last gift for Thor is called Mjolnir, and before anyone says anything, I want to take full responsibility for tarnishing what otherwise would have been my brother's masterpiece. The handle is about 3 centimeters shorter than it was supposed to be. Ooh. But subpar ergonomics aside, it can be thrown with perfect accuracy, it can shrink for convenient carrying, and it won't break no matter how hard you hit stuff with it, so you can pretty much kill monsters non-stop. 20 out of 10! I don't think that's how our rating system works.
20 out of 10.
Yeah, 20 out of 10. Yep, looks like Brock and Atri win fair and square. Well, looks like I can take your head now, Loki. Oh, sure, just give me 1 second. Ow, my other bone! Wow, this thing is great. Alright, Loki, a deal's a deal. Indeed it is. And, if you look at the fine print of our agreement, you'll see that while you're free to take my head, you're not entitled to my neck. So you better not cut off any of my neck along with my head, or you'll be having a word from my lawyer, sir. Solid J stand, you got him there. You gotta read the fine print. Ugh, man, you suck. If my brother, the sentient sewing needle, were here, I'd totally sew your mouth shut. Did somebody say sentient sewing needle? Well, if anyone needs me, I'm going to be out killing monsters with my cool new hammer for the next several months. Peace. And with Thor on sabbatical, the gods started to notice that they were uncomfortably vulnerable in the hypothetical event of a mass Jotun invasion. Then one day, a guy named Master Builder, rumored to be pretty good at building things, came and offered to build them a defensive wall for the low price of the sun, the moon, and the goddess Freya's hand in marriage. No way we'd ever make a deal like that, right guys? Guys, a big wall would be nice. Yeah, but the sun and the moon are pretty important. Also the third thing. Oh, hold on, let me loosen your mouth stitches. Thanks. Anyway, what I was saying was, why don't we take him up on his deal, but give him a hard deadline that he'll never meet, so in the end we'll get at least part of a wall and not have to pay for it. Hey, that's a good idea. Damn, you're on a hot streak, Loki. May I object to this course of action? Nope, just checking. So the gods took Master Builder's offer, but told him that if he didn't finish the wall by the first day of summer, he'd lose his payment. That works for me, but is it alright if my horse just helps me carry stuff? Sure, that sounds fine. Perfect, thanks. Well, off to work. Well, shit. And with the help of his horse Svartalfari, Master Builder was able to put the wall together with lightning speed. And as summer drew near, the gods started to get worried and called a meeting, where they politely asked Loki if they had any ideas for a way out of their conundrum. Don't worry, I've already concocted a foolproof plan for halting their progress. I'll simply divert my target's attention through the art of seduction. That's an interesting approach, but are you sure that would work on the Master Builder? What does the Master Builder have to do with anything? Oh, God. And then while Master Builder and his horse were on their way to pick up their last load of bricks, a ravishing young mare appeared. And Svartalfari was so enamored that he forgot about his job and bounded off with his new lady friend, leaving Master Builder to try and finish the wall alone as quickly as he could. But as the first day of summer finally arrived, his efforts proved to be in vain. Hey, no fair, you guys pulled some shenanigans. If it's any consolation, we didn't exactly get out of this unscathed. Mentally, at least. Oh, you'll be plenty more scathed when I'm done. Ow! 206 of my bones! Oh, hey Thor, nice to see you're back. Yeah, I've had a lot of fun killing monsters with this hammer. Sorry, I've had a long day, so I'm a little hoarse. Ew. So where's Loki? They just horsing around somewhere? Oh. Anyway, I need to go grab some dinner. I'm so hungry I could eat a whole. And then after, oh Lord, forgive me for this one. 11 to 12 months, Loki returned accompanied by an 8-legged foal named Sleipnir. And Sleipnir could run super fast, so when he grew up, Odin claimed him as his personal steed. Well, Loki, looks like your shenanigans once again helped us in the end. I sure am glad I made that blood pact with you. Aw, thanks. I know my antics can get pretty wacky, but I promise I'll always be a good friend and never betray you guys. Oh, hi, Balder. You're looking very murderable today. What? Nothing. The gods were in the business of making sure the world doesn't get destroyed, but unfortunately the Jotunar had a knack for making their job difficult. So it became Thor's responsibility to go out into Jotunheim every once in a while and commit some violent murder, in the name of peace. And he was really good at his job thanks to his magic hammer Mjolnir. But one night, somebody snuck into his house while he was sleeping and stole it. Oh, good morning, honey. Where's my hammer? Don't you have it right there? This is a ruler and a can of beans taped together to form the approximate shape of my hammer. Loki! Ah, I'm sorry I shaved down the outsoles of your boots to make you feel slightly shorter and harm your sensitive masculinity. What? Oh, nothing. What did you want to ask about? My hammer is missing. Did you steal it? Ah, I wish. That's a way better prank than the entirely hypothetical one I just mentioned. Yeah, except for the fact that I need my hammer to make sure the Jotunar don't end the world. Also, I like killing things. Oh, yeah, the world ending is definitely not something I want to happen. At least not until somebody finishes writing my favorite fantasy series, Patrick. Then Loki decided to investigate, so they traveled into Jotunheim, where they encountered Thrym, king of the Jotunar. Oh, hey, Loki, how are things going back in Asgard? Suspicious couple. Did you steal Thor's hammer? Yeah, while he was sleeping, I swapped it with a ruler taped to a can of beans to form the approximate shape of his hammer. Well, look, you're gonna have to return. Thor needs it to murder your people. Oh, sure, I'll be happy to hand it over to whoever can present me the goddess Freya's hand in marriage. Oh God, you're an incel. I take offense to your derogatory use of that word. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have stuff to do. So Loki went back to Thor and told him the news, and then the two of them went to Freya and decided to come up with a plan of their own. It'll be tough to get your hammer back without Freya, but I think I know another way we could do it, but I'm not sure if you'll be a fan of my idea. I'll do anything to get my hammer back! I'll do anything to get my hammer back except for this! Oh, relax, it won't be that bad. I happen to be an expert in the art of femininity, so just follow my lead and it'll be over before you know it. Wait, why am I the one pretending to be Freya if you can shapeshift? Oh hey look, we're here and they see us, can't change course now. Finally, my beautiful bride has arrived. Wait a second, you don't look anything like the pictures I've seen. You're even more beautiful in person. Ugh. Wait, I don't know how to feel about that. And then, before the ceremony, Thrym invited his lovely bride and her maid to a great feast. Our entree for this evening is your choice between the braised ox short rib and the honey-glazed salmon fillet. And for our sides, we have... That was pretty good. Do you have any more beer? Someone drank all of it. I gotta admit, I didn't expect my lovely Freya to have such a large appetite. Oh, well, that's just because she's been so excited to meet her handsome alpha Chad groom that she hasn't been able to eat for the past 9 days, and now she's just ravenous. You know what I think? I think that's pretty hot. Oh, alright, well, I'm not gonna tell you not to feel that way. You could. Do you, Thrym, take Freya to be your lawfully wedded wife? Hell yeah, I do. And do you, Freya, take Thrym to be your lawfully wedded husband? Till death do us part. Tight. I now pronounce you husband and wife. You can make out now. Oh boy, I've been waiting for this part. Ugh, her ice maker looked like she wants to crush me to death with her bare hands. Would you be into that? Huh, actually, I think I might be. Okay, I think it's time to exchange wedding presents now. Ah, of course. As promised, I present to you Thor's famous hammer. Where is that guy anyway? I would have thought he'd come here to get it himself. Oh, he's here all right. And he's been looking forward to this moment all day. Oh, well that explains a lot. But you know what? I've discovered a lot about myself today, and I don't think this is a deal breaker. Ow, I'm dead now, but I'm still kind of turned on. And then, reunited with Mjolnir, Thor used this opportunity to catch up on his Jotun-killing quota. Ooh, that feels better. This is the first time I've had to go longer than 3 hours without murdering something. Have you ever considered therapy?
The new Swiffer Power. Love it or your money back.
One day, the Aesir gods were coming home from a hunting trip and decided that they wanted to throw a party. So they headed to the home of a Jotun named Aegir, and Thor not so politely informed him that his house was the Aesir's new official party venue. Aegir was a little ticked off about having his weekend plan shaken up, so he told the gods that he wouldn't be able to host a party for them unless they could bring him a cauldron big enough to brew beer for all of the Aesir. Unfortunately, none of the Aesir had a vessel that could hope to accommodate Thor's stomach capacity, and it was looking like the party would have to be called off. But then Tyr told Thor about his father, the Jotun Heimir, who owned a cauldron that was a mile deep, and so the two of them headed into Jotunheim to see if they could acquire the goods. When they got to Heimir's hall, they were greeted by Tyr's lovely mother, along with his 900-headed grandmother, and Mrs. Heimir knew that her husband wouldn't be too jazzed about having to host an Aesir god like Thor in his home, so she told the two of them to hide before her husband came home so she could try to smooth things over first. Welcome home, dear. How was work? Horrible. Okay, well, our son Tyr has come to visit. I have a son. Yep, and he brought a friend of his, and I was planning on having them stay for dinner this evening. I guess that's fine. I just hope it's anyone but that despicable Jotun killer, Thor. Hi, Mr. Heimir, I'm Thor. You probably know about me because I regularly commit genocide against your people. I noticed there were a lot of barbecue kettle chips in this pantry, but I think Tyr ate them all, so I apologize on his behalf. So what's for dinner? And despite his hatred for Thor, Heimir was bound by good old hospitality customs to be a good host. So he served his guests 3 whole cows for dinner, of which Thor consumed 2. And because of this, Heimir was now running low on livestock, so he told Thor that they would have to go on a fishing trip if they all wanted to stay fed for the remainder of their visit. Sure, I'm down for some fishing. What should I use as bait? I don't know, just go find something so we can leave as soon as possible. Your cows are pretty tasty. Do you think this will work? I hate you so much, my left eye just went numb. And so Thor and Heimir sailed into the deep seas. Heimir rowed the boat into his normal fishing spot and caught 3 whole whales, enough to keep his family plus Thor fed for at least a couple more days. But Thor had bigger game in mind, and rowed farther out into deeper waters to cast his bait. Then from the depths of the sea came the great god's mortal nemesis. Jormungand, the fearsome world serpent, took the bait and burst to the surface to meet his foe. The two and usher in the end of days. Nope, fuck that. Jake has at least another handful of these Norse mythology cartoons to make before we're doing Ragnarok. You don't get to just jump the gun, asshole. And then the two sailed back to shore with their fishing haul. It was at this point Thor remembered the plot of this story and that he and Tyr were supposed to retrieve Heimir's giant cauldron. But Heimir said he would only let Thor have it if he could prove his manliness once and for all in an ultimate test of strength, breaking his indestructible cup. But try as he might, Thor couldn't seem to put a dent in the vessel no matter what tools he used. Well, it looks like we've hit a wall. Probably, but don't beat yourselves up. The only thing harder than your father's cup is his head. Oh, really? Ha! got it. Thanks for the tip, cheers, Mom. That was my favorite cup. But true to his word, Hamir rewarded Thorintyr by giving them his giant cauldron, and the two began carrying it off back to Asgard. But after walking for a while, Thor looked behind him and saw Hamir coming their way with an army of lava giants, ready to exact revenge for all the inconveniences he suffered. That might be a problem. Yeah, Tyr, is it cool if I go murder your father? Do you care about having my permission? Not really. Yeah, whatever, go ahead. Tight. Well, it was nice to see my mom. Might be awkward after this. Then Thor and Tyr finally returned to Aegir's Hall ready to get their booze on, and so all the Aesir gods have every winter since. Unfortunately, Aegir's sleep schedule never recovered. So one time, the gods Odin, Loki, and Honir were out traveling when they came upon some oxen, and they decided to settle down and cook up some dinner. But strangely, no matter how long they cooked, the meat still came out raw. Looks like someone's using a magic spell to prevent our food from cooking. Loki, are you up to some shenanigans? Why whenever mischief is afoot, you guys always look at me? Gee, I wonder why. Hey guys! Whoa! Don't worry, I'm just a giant talking eagle. It's fine, don't question it. I saw you had some tasty looking meat, so I was wondering if maybe I could have a share? And if we don't give you any, you'll keep using this magic to make us starve? Yep. Well, as a trickster god, I gotta respect the hustle. So Odin agreed to give the eagle a portion of their meal, and once he lifted his spell, the meat cooked right away. But Loki wasn't jazzed about sharing food, so they started whacking the eagle with a stick. But the eagle grabbed onto it and shot high up into the air with his assailant. Well, this is quite the pickle I've gotten myself into. I suppose this is where you reveal that you're actually a powerful Jotun, and you're gonna force me into a vow of service in exchange for my life? Haha, you got me. Yeah, I'm actually the Jotun Thiazi. Originally, all I wanted was some free steak, but since you so kindly inserted yourself into my pickle jar, I'm gonna request that you lure the goddess Idun out of Asgard so I can kidnap her. And if I don't, I'll drop you and you'll turn into a flesh pancake. You drive a hard bargain, Thiazi, my man. The goddess Idun was the wife of the god Bragi and keeper of the golden apples which granted the gods extended youth when eaten. She never left Asgard unaccompanied, but Loki, ever the schemer, came up with a plan to lure her into Thiazi's trap. Hey there, Idun, how's it going? Hi, Loki. You here for a bite of my apples? Actually, I'm good on that score. I found some apples that are even better than yours, over in that secluded forest. You know, the one so far away and densely wooded that nobody in Asgard would be able to hear cries for help coming from there. You found some apples that are better than mine? Oh, we'll see about that. So Idun followed Loki into the forest, where Thiazi promptly swooped in to catch his prey. So we're good now, right? Yeah, we're square. Tight. And now with Idun missing, all the gods in Asgard began to grow old and feeble, so they assembled to discuss their predicament. Geez, I sure am old now. Yeah, me too. Man, what are old people things? I lost my teeth. I can't hear things well. I need glasses to use my phone. I don't know what you guys are talking about. I'm looking as young as ever. Yeah, I have no idea where my wife went with her apples. Does anyone know who last saw Idun? I don't know, but it sure seems like mischief is afoot. Shit, I did do it this time. And the gods politely requested for Loki to rectify the situation. So they borrowed Freya's falcon suit and flew over to Thiazi's home where Idun sat. Hey, so I'm really sorry you got caught up in all of this. I was kind of in a pickle. Thiazi threatened my life to help him take you, but now the Aesir are threatening me to steal you back, so here I am. Yeah, next time someone threatens your life, try dying. And so Loki turned Idun into a nut and flew off back to Asgard with her. But when Thiazi returned home and saw his prisoner was missing, he flew off in pursuit. When the gods saw Loki and Idun returning with Thiazi hot on their trail, they piled up some wood and lit it up as the Jotun passed through. Geez, I'm dead now. And now with Idun returned, the gods could once again feast on her apples to restore their youth. But they couldn't celebrate for too long because Thiazi's daughter, the Jotuness Skadi, soon arrived, seeking vengeance for her father's murder. The gods didn't want to deal with another conflict, so as a gesture of peace, they decided to offer her some compensation for her loss. First, she was allowed to choose a husband from any of the gods, but she could only pick them based on their feet. She chose the prettiest pair of feet in the lineup, hoping they belonged to Balder, the most beloved of the gods. But it turned out that she picked Njord. Another compensation the gods owed Skadi was to find a way to make her laugh, but this proved to be a more difficult task. And so the gods once again turned to Loki to solve their problem. Loki took a rope and tied one end to the beard of a goat and the other to their junk. Needless to say, what ensued was an absolute riot. The gods' final compensation for Skadi was to send her father Thiazi's eyes into the sky to become stars, so he could always watch over her. Wow. We sure had our ups and downs today. But you know, in the end, everything turned out just fine, and all is forgiven. In fact, I for one feel like we've all become even closer friends than— Shut the fuck up, Loki. One day, Loki was in the mood for doing some mischief, so they borrowed Frigg's falcon suit and traveled into Jotunheim. They ended up at the home of a Jotun named Gerd, who spotted them spying from a window. Gerd sent a servant to catch his avian intruder, and Loki decided to amuse themselves by watching him struggle up to the window. It was a slow day, alright? But when the servant reached Loki, they discovered they were stuck to the windowsill and were caught. Gerd could tell Loki wasn't any ordinary bird, so he locked them in a box to starve. After 3 months, Loki finally revealed their identity and promised Gerd if they were let go, they'd bring Thor to his home without his hammer and magic belt to defend himself with. This turned out not to be a very difficult scheme to pull off, as Thor is always down for a chance to kill some Jotuns, and a handicap to spice things up was only a bonus as far as he was concerned. On their way to Gerd, however, Thor and Loki stopped at the home of Grid, the Jotunist mother of the Aesir god Vidar. She warned Thor to watch out for Gerd's mischief, and then lent him a new belt of strength, some iron gloves, and a staff called Gridaval. So, never mind about the handicaps, I guess. Also, it's not 100% clear whether the iron gloves given to Thor were his iconic gloves Yarngraper, since Yarngraper just means iron gloves. Was Snorri talking about the Yarngraper, or just a Yarngraper? No gloves are mentioned in Thor's Droppa, an earlier Skaldic rendition of this story, so we're just gonna shrug and move on. Anyway, then their path took them to the river Vimur, and Loki latched onto Thor as he started wading across it. But halfway through, the tide began to rise higher and higher, threatening to drown the gods. And that's when Thor looked upstream and noticed Gerd's Jotunist daughter Gjalp straddling the river and, quote, causing the river to rise. Interpret that how you will. So Thor picked up a rock. If you want to stem a river, you gotta cut it off at its source. Ow. And then, finally, Thor and Loki arrived at Gerd's home. Why, hello, my long-awaited guests. I hope you didn't have to face any treachery on your way here. I have a perfectly cordial dinner planned for this evening, but I'm sure you're weary from your long travels. So, why don't you take some time to relax in my luxury guest suite? I called the chair. So Thor popped a squat in his room, but once he sat down, the chair started rising, and he realized Gerd's daughters, Gjalp and Great, were underneath, pushing him up to the ceiling. So Thor took Gridaval and stuck it into the ceiling, while pushing down hard with his legs against the force of his assailants. The old chair trick? Did these people think I was born yesterday or something? You fucking scare me, man. Afterward, Thor was invited to meet with Gerd inside his hall. Hey, so I feel kind of embarrassed, but I think I should come clean and say I wasn't 100% honest about why I invited you here. You're trying to kill me, right? Yeah, I really hate you and want you to die. Fair enough, feelings mutual. And you're also probably mad that I just killed your 2 daughters? Oh, for sure, I'm absolutely gutted. They were my pride and joy. All that drives me now is a burning desire for revenge. And I'm assuming now you've prepared another devious surprise attack that I just walked into? Yeah, you totally got me. Alright, prepared to die. Then Gerd used tongs to pull a lump of molten iron out of the fire and flung it at his enemy. But Thor caught the projectile with Grid's iron gloves. Well, shit, I'm out of ideas. And then Gerd hid behind a pillar. But Thor swung his arm and tossed the hot iron straight through the pillar, Gerd, and the outer wall of the hall. This was a very unsatisfying turn of events, and now I'm dead, blah. Well, I guess it all just goes to show. If you wanna be, Alright, there's not really a moral to this story, I just had a lot of fun killing people.
people in line. Why did he flee?
The poor soul already suffered so much. Seeing a body mutilated in such a vicious manner. You would think that living here made us indifferent to such. But it always takes a toll.
Your barbarian minds are weak. This corpse belongs to yet another of your scouts?
No. Sire. Judging from the road, I believe this is the cartographer you were searching for.
Cursed lands! Ah! Forget him! We need his maps! Search the hut! Search this cage! Search everything!
Sire, we have found the cartographer's notes in his hut.
Does it
Does it
say
say where to cross? I believe it does, my lord. But the marked route requires crossing the nearby swamps. It's a very... You dare to question the expertise of a royal cartographer? If he marked it, that's where we're going. Follow the plan, Steward. We've went...
We've run out of storage space for our wood. We need to build or upgrade a storehouse. Our people are starving. our military. Please provide our people something to eat, sir. This terrain is not suitable for building.
25th, the Mexican monster David Benavidez takes on undefeated Demetrius Andrade. Part of an action-packed night featuring boxing's brightest stars, David Benavidez versus Demetrius Andrade, Saturday, November 25th, live on pay-per-view.
What's up? Hey everyone, what is going on? Welcome back to the Spookly channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hope your day is going fantastic. Well, it's probably about to get worse because you're about to be scared out of your mind. Because today I'm going to be exploring a fantastic new internet ARG analog horror series that honestly not enough people know about. It's kind of flying under the radar a little bit, and I'm going to be showing it to you today, explaining it all, and we're going to be exploring the depths of the Woodlands National Park. Enjoy eldritch horror, national parks from real life, cover-ups, getting paid off, massive entities in the woods, and weird, unnerving imagery, as well as some found footages, then this ARG is right up your alley. It's up mine too, so don't worry, it's not just you. And if you don't trust national parks in real life, then you're really gonna enjoy this video. Hopefully you enjoy. If you don't enjoy it, I'm sorry. With all that said and done, let's explore the depths of Woodlands National Park. So this series is split up into 8 different parts, and I'm going to be going through each of the videos in order, and I'll be explaining the timeline and all that stuff and putting my input and breaking down cryptic clues and everything like that. The typical breakdown video. I really hope you enjoy this. It's going to be awesome. If you have not seen the original yet from Buddy Films, the creator, go watch it first. Seriously, it is a fantastic watch through. It is seriously so entertaining, and I really enjoy this kind of thing, and I know you do too if you're in this niche, you do. And they literally only have 15,000 subscribers. Seriously, they need to get pumped up to more because this is somehow flying under the radar of all the big YouTubers. So I'm hoping I can slide in here before Wendigo gets his hands on. Anyways, let's start with the first video of the series. The first vlog in this series is from 1975, and it is titled "The Most Dangerous National Park in the USA." 1975 found footage tape, Woodlands National Park story. Park Ranger Alex and Park Ranger Steve. These two dudes, and these are the two homies that National Park is located somewhere in Washington, and Steve and Alex work there. Right on the screen, a Woodlands National Park pamphlet pops up, which gives us some more detail as to what's actually inside the park and the weird things that it encapsulates. The park information reads as follows. I'm just going to go ahead and read the whole thing so I don't sound like a lunatic. Woodlands National Park was designated as a national monument in 1912 and made an official national park in 1939. The park contains many anomalous creatures, plants, and entities. So off the bat, we see that some crazy stuff's about to go down, because what kind of park puts that in a pamphlet? Also off the bat, we know that this place was officially recognized back in 1912 as a national monument, which I find pretty interesting that it took 27 years to signify it as a national park. Again, more on that later. But the park was officially named a national park back in 1939, and the story that we're watching takes place in 1975, so a little under 40 years later. And then the pamphlet briefly mentions some weird creatures that you might see, but I'm going to wait till the video that explains them all to explain them, because I don't want to jumble up your tiny brains yet. Just kidding, love y'all. Alex then tells us about visitor centers and park ranger locations that are sprinkled throughout the park, and in these locations you can find pamphlets and guides and videos that are informational and that kind of thing. Just your typical national park station. You need to keep in mind where these are. They might save your life one day. The video then cuts to a short clip of what looks like a Wendigo skull just jumping right in front of the camera. Right after this video footage, we move to a screen of a still image with the text, "He's standing right there," in the bottom left corner. Now, you can't really see anything standing there, and that's for good reason. That is an entity that you can't see. We'll talk about it later. In this first minute and a half, you kind of get the feeling of how really eldritch horror and scary this place is going to be. Alex then introduces us to what the other video logs are going to be about. Things like entities, weather, layout, and history of the Woodlands National Park. And he says that him and Steve are going to walk us all through the history and everything. And that is where the first entry video ends. This is a very good first part to a series. I think it really sets the tone for how things are going to be with these weird anomalous creatures everywhere and this just general distrust aura that's around Steve and Alex. It's very cool. And after watching the entire series like 4 or 5 times, you really get the hints that it drops in this first part. That's again why I recommend you watch the series just raw by itself. Yes, raw of the series, please. And then come back and watch the video so that way you'll understand a little bit of the hints that they drop. I'll do my best to explain them in this video, but I can't promise I'll catch everything. The next episode of the series is entitled Park Ranger Admits to the Existence of Wendigos, 1975 found footage, and it's another 2-minute video, but this time it's Park Ranger Steve hosted it. Basically, he just outright says that Wendigos are a common thing to see while exploring Woodlands National Park. And then he describes what a Wendigo is. Now, I'm sure most of you know what a Wendigo is, but if you don't, I will link a full Lore Lodge video talking about it, because, again, Lore Lodge goes extremely into detail about the smallest little things, and I love it. So if you really want this over, dramatized, in-depth look into what Wendigos are in their history, check that out. Just know that it is an eldritch horror that gets to the way it is by eating a human and being a cannibal, and then it just stalks the woods to hunt other people. That's the most broad, blank overview I can give. But anyways, Steve says, yeah, they're real, and they're here, and we see them pretty often. Interestingly, he says in the middle of the video that a Wendigo is actually a Native American legend, then follows that sentence up by saying, which until recently we thought it was a legend. So this means that the Wendigos in the park have not always been there, or they weren't always documented as real entities. Weird. It's also not the best thing to hear when you're about to walk through the park alone. Steve claims that these Wendigos were proven to be real after some mishaps inside the park. I'm sure you guys can guess what a mishap is. But if you can't, so someone got eaten by a Wendigo. It's not that hard. Good job. Then the video cuts to Steve showing a cadaver right there on the floor and lifting up the blanket and looking underneath it. And he literally says, "There is no legs here," and slams the tarp back down. Just listen to how he says it. "There is no legs here." The way he said that has me dying for absolutely no reason at all. It's literally so stupid. After this, it cuts back to Steve, who then tells us how to survive a Wendigo encounter. The first point being to not run, because apparently they love it when you run. That's what Steve says. A park pamphlet on how to survive a Wendigo then pops up on the screen, and it reads as follows. First discovered by the Native Americans in the northern regions of the U.S., the Wendigo is a flesh-eating monster. Has been observed running 45 miles an hour, or 72 kilometers per hour, who don't speak red, white, and blue. Then the pamphlet ends by telling you the only
When it comes time for next steps, ready, Dan? Agents who are realtors are here for it. When the place needs to be special, we're here with market insights that make all the difference. Here for it all, because that's who we are.
successful way to end a Wendigo. And to do that, you have to remove its heart. And that is more accurate. That's how actual Wendigos are supposed to be killed. Now, you can actually defend yourself from a Wendigo without killing it by using a silver bullet or a silver-tipped blade or something like that, or even a silver arrow, and using silver will somehow weaken it. After this pamphlet, the video of Steve and his cameraman is abruptly interrupted by Steve saying, "It's time to run. Let's go, let's get out of here," because he sees a Wendigo. And of course, they start running away right after they told us to not run away. Seems like they're not listening to their own advice. Anyways, the creature ends up catching the cameraman, who is named John, and it attacks him and eats him right there. W in the chat, John, the cameraman. He will come up a lot later in the story. He's an integral part to the Woodlands National Park, and it's pretty sad to see him go so early on in the series. Anyways, with John being consumed by a eldritch horror, that's where the video ends. On to video 3. So the next entry is entitled 45-Foot Tall Cryptid in Woodlands National Park. And this, my friends, is where things get nice and juicy. Or it could be that I have an unhealthy addiction to learning more about lore. This video is hosted by Alex. He opens by saying that the trail known as Dead Man's Trail is now closed due to there being a dead man on the trails. John. That trail with John was always closed. So Alex claims that this video that's right now is being made in response to a recent uptick in sightings of an entity known as walkers. So walkers themselves seem to be geo-locked inside of Woodlands National Park's barriers. Like there's no more outside that is seen. They are, geographically here in this exact park. Originally, most people believed this creature to be a ghost or an apparition of some sort, or somehow exist on the actual plane, and it wasn't a real flesh and blood creature. Until we figured out that it was. The way they did this is that someone used a FLIR thermal camera at nighttime, and it saw the outline of the heat signal, because somehow this creature gives off a biological heat, even though you can't see with your naked eye. So you might be asking yourself, how can you not see a 45-foot tall, huge creature with your eyes? That's actually an interesting thing. You see, the walkers are such a dark black color in their natural coloration that they absorb all the visible light spectrum around them, rendering them virtually invisible. So you have these walkers envelop all the visible light around them, and that's actually the creature that was in the first video inside the picture that said it was just standing right there. There was a walker in the picture. You just couldn't see it. Walkers can range anywhere from 12 to around 45 feet tall, and they have extremely long legs and arms in proportion to their body size. They also have another unique, really cryptic power that they have, where their bodies emit some kind of radio wave when they walk, or when they're standing there. This effect will cause all the radios and speakers in the surrounding areas to play nothing but static. So if you're sitting around a campfire with your friends, listening to some music, and then you hear just like, static, a walker is nearby. And this is the only way to know they're nearby, because you can't see them with the naked eyeballs. Now, these static patterns have been analyzed, and nothing's come out of it. But it is theorized that that's how the walkers communicate with each other, or how they try to communicate with humans. Alex then goes into more safety measures on how to protect yourself from a impending walker attack, or if there's one near, or how to take precautions if you're going to be spending the night in the woods. The main one, he says, is to keep a campfire running all the time. Like, literally 100% of the time, even through the night, like set an alarm to wake yourself up to put wood on the fire, because you have to keep the fire going. The fire is the best way to ward off any of the creatures here, especially the walker, because apparently they don't want to get near light sources, although we'll see later that that's not really true. But for now, just believe me. Yeah, and if you do hear static late at night from your speaker or your radio or your walkie-talkie, then you need to pick up the radio and you need to say, "Ranger, Ranger." That way you can kind of confirm that it's not a ranger trying to contact you on your radio. And if they don't reply, then it's a walker. But it's probably always going to be a walker, because I don't think a ranger is going to be hitting up your radio at 2 a.m. Then the third video concludes with a radio around the fire being interfered by a walker, which means there's a walker within a few feet distance of that fire. Now, video 4 of the series is where it starts to ramp itself up even more with difficulty and with the horror aspect. The video is entitled "Private Military Group hunts down Wendigo. That's right, folks, the SCP Foundation has got their grubby paws all over the Woodlands National Park. Just kidding. It's actually the Dyer Corporation. So the Dyer Corporation is kind of this shadow government entity that exists and knows about the national park. They have dispatched this private military group to go in and hunt down the Wendigo that sadly killed our favorite cameraman, John. The Dyer Company was called on June 3rd, 1975, and within 15 hours of John's passing, the Dyer Company sent out this military task force to hunt down Wendigo. The force's name is Task Force Delta, and the team is made up of an expert tracker, 2 artillerymen with guns, and 1 cameraman. To be honest, I feel like they could have just strapped a GoPro to one of the gun guys. I don't think they should have brought a cameraman around. Anyways, it's in this video where we finally get to see our first map of the park. And on this specific map, we get to see where Dead Man's Trail is, where John's body was found, and a river running through the park. The video cuts to the task force trudging through the woods, and we see on the first day that nothing bad happens. It's just the dudes walking through the forest with their military outfit on. They set up camp, they spend the night there, and then the next morning they wake up and then they start walking closer to where John was found. That is until they come across a weird sight. They find an abandoned campsite 63 miles off of the nearest trail. Now, the entire reason this task force is in the woods this far is to avoid being seen and to go in stealthily. So why in the world is there a campsite 60 plus miles off the nearest trail? First of all, that's really weird. Don't know who would hike out that far, but whoever did in the story met a bad fate. They find a ripped apart tent with huge gashes in the side, they find blood all over the ground, and they find a bed of coals from a fire that are still warm, which means that they left not too long ago. As they're exploring this campsite, they're being ravaged by some the darkness starts to come over, and then the sun starts to set. And right as the sun is setting, the group is set upon by a Wendigo. One of the officers, yells out that it's out in the woods. They take up formation, and they start to shoot blindly into the woods to try to scare it off, I guess. I don't know. The Wendigo attacks, throwing one of the dudes in the air far away, and then it proceeds to run around and try to get the other members of the group as well. The cameraman, hyperventilating, of course, hides in the tent that was already torn up, in hopes that the Wendigo doesn't see him, and then it passes by. He's aiming his camera at a big gash in the tent, and then you can kind of see horns walking past that big gash, and it passes by the tent, and the cameraman is safe. No, he's not. For like 4 or 5 seconds, there's nothing, and then out of nowhere, the Wendigo reaches through the tent, tries to grab the cameraman, and he screams like a little girl, but somehow the cameraman evades the Wendigo and jumps out the back of the tent and starts running away into the woods. At this point, there's only 2 army guys left, so it's these 2 guys and the cameraman, and they're just sprinting through the woods trying to get away from this Wendigo. And the footage ends with these 2 dudes and the cameraman running away for their lives. We don't know if they escaped or not. I assume they did. That's how we got the recording. But they lost half their team. So the next entry begins with Park Ranger Alex and Steve expressing their sympathies for what happened to John. They love John. They were really close. He worked there for 20 plus years, and he was kind of like this elder, almost like father figure to them. So losing him out like that, being attacked by a Wendigo, it hurt him pretty bad. And I kind of feel bad for him. I kind of do. And they mentioned that, like I said, John has worked at this park for over 20 years as a wildlife photographer, and his photos of these entities and creatures are some of the only ones that are available. So he's done this crazy job for 20 years and lasted this entire time doing it until he met his fate with the Wendigo. In the middle of them expressing their sympathies, Steve gets a radio call from a ranger at a nearby visitor center. And this ranger brings some pretty bad news. The ranger claims that John's wife is there, and she's asking questions. So John's wife is named Nancy, and Nancy and John were really close. They've been together for a long time, and she knew that he was a wildlife photographer at the Woodlands National Park, and she knew that there was dangerous things there because John had told her. However, she thought it lasted 20 years. I'm sure it'll last for retirement. And that's why she's here, barging in the door, asking questions, what's happened, why did it happen, you're covering this up, and that kind of thing. And obviously the park isn't going to say sorry ma'am, your husband was murdered by a Wendigo. You know, they're not just going to come out and say that, because if they did, they would lose all their business and all their, you know, hikers and everything. No one would want to go to a park where you could get eaten by a Wendigo. So Alex and Steve cut off this recording and they run to the visitor center to try to talk to Nancy, try to calm her down, try to get her to relax. And while this is happening, the park does what any other governing agency would do, and they try to pay her off. You know, they say, take the money, sign the NDA, don't say anything about it, and it'll all be alright. They tell Nancy that John was mauled by a bear, which she obviously doesn't believe, because he worked there for 20 years, and he was an expert tracker and cameraman, and he knew the way around. He would not get snuck up on by a bear. And the ranger that called Steve says to Nancy, quote, ma'am, for the last time, I strongly urge you to sign the agreement to take the money, end quote. And of course, Nancy is not gonna want to do this. She's furious. Her husband just died. She then does something that's pretty dangerous, and she starts to claim that John told her what was happening at the park. She says that John told her that there was wendigos and creatures that we don't understand, and weird anomalous properties and locations, which I'm sure John wasn't supposed to do. But now that she said that out in the open, the park is kind of freaking out. Because if one person outside knows all these weird things and all the cover-ups that they do, then everybody can know. So once again, they try to calm her down, give her the money, sign the NDA, and try to get her out of the park as far away as possible. She kind of had like a little boss moment, if you will. And then the guy was like, I strongly urge you to stop talking, which is just layman's terms for stop talking or we're going to have to like cover you up too. You know what I'm saying? At this point, Steve rushes in the visitor center and starts taking over the conversation and talking to Nancy himself. Now Nancy and Steve know each other because, you know, John worked with Steve and they were working close. So he's able to calm her down a little bit, and he's able to convince her to sign this NDA for the safety of her and her children. And he says they just lost their dad, they can't lose their mom. Steve knows what the Dyer Corporation and what the park can do to cover up stuff, so he doesn't want Nancy to be wrapped up in it. So he convinces her to take the money, sign the NDA, and just to get out of there before anything goes bad. While they're talking, we don't get a visual of what they're saying to each other, but what apparently happens is Steve writes on a notepad what actually happened to John and shows it to Nancy. And of course, Nancy reading, your husband was killed by a Wendigo, that kind of freaked her out of her anger into, okay, wow, yeah, we do need to get out of here. We do need to take the money and hide, and it worked. So W for Steve. The video ends with Steve telling Nancy that if she needs anything, to just call him, and he'll be, you know, one phone call away, and that's where it ends. So I really like this video. It's my favorite one in the series. You know, as I was watching it, it was my favorite, and I still think it might be my favorite, but it highlights real-life themes that happen in national parks. Like, this is a real thing that happens. The government tries to pay people off. The government tries to cover up stuff. The National Park Service, really shady. They have things going on inside of them with disappearances and creatures and stuff like that that they don't want the public to know about. A lot of times when a family member goes missing in the park and you ask the ranger service or anybody investigating, they don't tell you anything. Then they hide, you know, evidence, and they just are really tight-lipped about it. And from the outside, that just looks sus. You know, it looks like they're hiding something. I'll link Wendigoon's Missing 411 video in the description below, where he chronicles several disappearances that have happened in national parks. Check that out if you're interested. I'll definitely...
What makes Slotomania the #1 free slots game? It's the perfect me-time game that allows you to unwind. These huge jackpots and exciting wins that are a spin away. The slots that take the thrill and excitement to the edge. These are what makes Slotomania the #1 free slots game in the world. Download now to receive 1 million coins and a free picky. Slotomania. What will today spend?
Be doing some Missing 401 stuff, like the lesser known. I've read all the books about it and stuff. I'm really into that kind of thing, and that's why I really like this part of the series. I love how they're playing into this nasty government cover-up. This shadow entity trying to pay people off to, you know, to scrape things under the rug. Anyways, on to the third to last entry. Entry number 6. So entry number 6 is a changing point within the series. It kind of mixes things up, changes the flow, and it kind of changes the way the videos are presented. It also does a cool thing, and it introduces another entity. The video is titled, Miners, like with pickaxes, were attacked by these entities in 1850. It starts with Park Ranger Alex explaining that back in the 1800s, people would go to the river that's in this park, and they would sift for gold. Apparently there was gold deposits in the river. And while they stayed there, mining and sifting for gold, they would stay on the banks of the river inside of the natural cave formations that were there. There's tons of them in the rocks by the river, just dotted in them. These caves can range from being like massive caverns to small cave entrances. But the problem is, these miners had no idea about the creatures that were lurking inside the caves until they did. The creatures are known as cave critters. They are long, ungainly, gray-skinned humanoids that live inside the caves. Creatures have 6 arms, or appendages, that stick out from different points in their bodies, and they're extremely strong, which gives them the ability to climb up just raw rock surfaces straight up. The good news is that these creatures almost never leave the caves. It's like they're kind of locked inside of them due to them not liking sunlight. The best picture we have of these cave critters is from John himself. It's this image right here. And like I said, John's kind of an OG in this series because he is the best photographer of these entities. As you can see, it looks like a giant spider humanoid thing. This photograph by John was taken way back in 1957, and the last cave critter attack that we have documented is from 1962. That is until the one that I'm going to talk about soon. But anyways, the last big number of attacks was in 62. Alex then goes on to explain how cave critters multiply, how they reproduce, and how they continue their line. And it's through a pretty interesting way. You see, cave critters have a virus inside of their saliva that they transmit to other things and people via biting them. So it's kind of like a vampire. Now, if a person is bitten by a cave critter, you're actually not guaranteed to turn into one or to even have anything happen at all. Because the park has something called the 45-45-10 rule, which is pretty much the nickname given to the odds of you getting this disease. There's a 45% chance that you'll just pass away from being bitten. Like it'll be too toxic and you'll just not live. There's a 45% chance that you'll become a cave critter, and then there's a 10% chance that nothing will happen. You'll just walk away fine and have a cool scar, I guess. Which means that 10% of the people are just naturally immune to it somehow. If you're infected by a cave critter, for the first couple weeks you won't really notice too many symptoms until like after that second week, when you'll start to display rabies-like symptoms. You'll start to be really erratic, you'll start to foam at the mouth, and you'll just get all like crazy and volatile and very aggressive. In the weeks after these symptoms, you'll start to have this unbearable urge to return back to the cave that you were bitten inside of. It's like it's calling you back home. You have to get there no matter what. And you'll do anything to get back there. You'll hop on a plane. If anybody stops you, you'll slash them. You have to get to the cave. Next in the video, there is a small clip of a man that's infected with the cave critter virus being put down after being strapped up to a chair. He just got shot because he was too dangerous. More on that guy later. There's a whole video about it. Anyways, if a victim that's been bitten inside the cave will protect that human until they can transform themselves fully into a cave critter. Because this transformation, it takes about 6 months, so half a year, which is a long time, and there can be rescue attempts made and that kind of thing, and that's why the cave critters themselves protect that new critter. They don't want them to be taken from them. They protect them until they turn into a cave critter themselves. The cave entrances are closed off by barricades right now, which has decreased the need for medical attention, and there's been less attacks, which is good, but it didn't help fully. Anyways, that is where entry number 6 ends. So entry number 7 is the second to last clip that we have now, and this is the 7th video. And I'm sure there'll be a ton more. Seriously, this is fantastic. It's titled The Cave Critter Disease Outbreak of 1975. And if you remember from what I just went over in the last video, the only reported, cave critter attack since John took that photo was in 1962. Just 13 years before the start of this analog horror series, 1975. Which means that there is an active cave critter outbreak right now while Alex and Steve are filming these videos. Now, this footage of the video off the bat tells us who started this outbreak and how it started. On October 7th of 75, some guy named Todd Harrison, was intrigued by the caves. He was kind of mesmerized by them, and he saw them blocked off and was like, you know what? I got this. I can explore it. I'll be fine. Anyways, he was so intrigued that he jumped the barriers and he started exploring a cave. Where, of course, he was attacked in the arm by a cave critter and he was bitten. Now, obviously, Todd freaked out and he ran out of the cave, got into his car, drove feverishly out of the park, covered up his cut, and made sure that the park rangers at the gate didn't see it. One of the reasons that he actually left was he thought the park would end him for being bitten as a cover-up. Because, the park doesn't have a really good track record for leaving people alive after they're being attacked or after something happened. So he kind of just got out of there before something bad was going to go down, which was pretty smart, but also pretty dumb. Todd then got on a plane to head all the way back to New York, which is a cross-country trip from Washington to New York is literally a long time. So he gets on the plane, he gets back, and for the first week or so, he doesn't really show any symptoms. That's how this disease works. Until that second week, he starts to develop some symptoms. Feeling really sick, feeling off. He goes to the nearest Dyer Corporation hospital, which they secretly ran, of course, and his blood is taken to be sent off for inspection and to be, diagnosed. Of course, the diagnosis comes back, and your boy Todd has gotten the cave critter disease. Lucky 10%. He's infected. Now, if you remember, the virus takes 6 full months to come into fruition. So he fully won't turn into this gray humanoid being for 6 months. But for now, he does have the rabies symptoms, and he's very irritable and really just volatile. The doctor that took Todd's blood, whose name is James, calls the park, and Park Ranger Steve answers the phone. He tells Steve that he's James from Dyer Medical, and then he immediately tells him, this guy, Todd, he's infected with cave critter disease, and he's not in the park. He's on the other side of the country. What do I do? James asks Steve if Steve can confirm that this Todd guy was actually in the park, if that was, something that could be the reason why he got bitten. And, Steve looks at the records, and Steve's like, yeah, some guy named Todd was here. He bought a day pass for Tuesday, the 7th of October. He was here. That's the guy. And, of course, this confirms that there's a man with cave critter disease in New York. Steve then freaks out and is, really mad that he got past security leaving the park without showing his bite. And the doctor says, well, the bite was on the arm, it was pretty easy to cover up, and that's how you didn't see it. And unless Alex and Steve were at the park gates doing strip searches, I think he could have hidden them pretty well. So now I'm going to set up a pretty good timeline of the events that have happened so far that have led up to this exact event, because this is where the story really starts to take off. The earliest date we get is that the Woodlands National Park area, the river specifically, was used by prospectors and gold miners in the 1850s. So that's when this timeline will start. It was designated as a national monument in 1912, and then it was officially made into a national park in 1939. Park Ranger Steve was born in 1947, and then Park Ranger Alex was born in 1949. John, the cameraman, started working there sometime around 1955, and we get that date because in 1975, when John was unfortunately slain by the Wendigo, his wife said he's been working there for 20 years, and that could be a rough estimate. That could be 21, 22, 19, but I'm assuming it's 20, and if you subtract 20 from 1975, you get 1955. So we're going to say he started working there around 1955. 2 years later, in 1957, John took the famous picture of the cave critter in the cave, and that is the only good picture we have of them right now. 8 years later, Steve starts working at Woodlands National Park in 1965, and Alex starts working there in 1967, 2 years later. Fast forward 8 more years, and Todd Harrison walks into a cave and is bitten by a cave critter on October 7th, 1975. He then flies home to New York, and a couple weeks later, sometime in late October or early November, he goes to the doctor with the symptoms of the cave critter disease, rabies and all that. Then the doctor, or James, waits a full 5 days for some reason after diagnosing him with the disease to call the park and Park Ranger Steve to tell him about the blood work. So now, at most, it's been 15 days since Todd Harrison was bitten, or at least it's been 12. It's somewhere from 12 to 15. The dates are not exact. Anyways, that is the timeline we have so far from all the dates mentioned. If there's more added in the series, and if I make a part 2, I'll fix it, obviously. But after the call with Steve, James sends a team to go find Todd and arrest him, take him into custody before he starts wreaking havoc. They couldn't detain him at the hospital for some reason. Don't know why, but they had to go to his house to find him before he bites a bunch of people. When this dispatch team gets to Todd's house, they find that he's been living in a closet in his basement for the past week or so. He did this to avoid light and noise, since cave critters don't like those things. They searched around Todd's house, and they found all the windows covered with cloth, and there was blood in the sink, which is a symptom from cave critter disease. It's like you're throwing up your insides, and It's all over the place. The place stinks like a rotten iron, and everything is just completely dark and cold and noiseless. Now, the reason we know this blood is a symptom of the disease is from the person who got bit back in '62, and this was a symptom they displayed. That person was apprehended before they could wreak havoc, so nothing really bad happened. But one of the main symptoms early on is bleeding from your eyes, ears, and nose. Anyways, they find Todd, and that's actually where the video from the guy who was strapped to the chair early on in the series, that's Todd. He goes crazy, he's strapped in the chair, and that dispatch team from Dyer Corporation pulls out the Glicky and ends him right there. And rest in peace, Todd Harrison. But this is the final picture that we have of Todd, and it's very unsettling. You can see the blood coming out of the eyes. I think it's cool this series drops those hints in earlier on videos, and then kind of tells us what it is later on. Just a pretty cool thing. But you might think that the outbreak ends there. They completely blew Todd's head off with that shotgun. Well, you actually be sadly mistaken, because the story thickens. Because 6 months later, 2 security guards at an abandoned hospital start to hear noises inside of the hospital. Of course, they do what security guards do, and they go to investigate these noises, only to be ambushed by a creature of some kind inside the hospital walls. One guard saw his buddy, the other guard, be taken by a, quote, large 6-armed humanoid, which is a cave critter, and ripped to pieces. That one security guard lived to tell the tale, and our corporation found him, and that's how we know this. Now, the interesting thing about this encounter is that this cave critter was not in a cave. It was in a hospital. Now, it was nighttime, and it was inside of a building, but the inside of a building is not the inside of a cave. It's very different. I'm wondering who this was and how they were affected. Sure, it was by Todd, but this was not in Woodlands National Park. This was somewhere else at an undisclosed location. I'm assuming it's near where Todd Harrison's house was. It's not mentioned, but yeah, you can assume that. Once the Dyer Corporation was, told that a security guard just got ripped to shreds by a cave critter inside of an abandoned hospital, they sent out another dispatch team, because their teams totally have a good track record of doing the right thing and actually containing the anomaly. Anyways, there was 3 men sent in, 2 heavily armed ones with, guns and stuff, and then again, 1 cameraman to photograph the entire thing. And I gotta say, it seems like the cameraman really never does die. I guess that's why they send him in. I guess creatures don't kill cameramen. But anyways, of course, this mission went awry. People were attacked, people were killed, and the video footage itself was corrupted, and only a few stills could be recovered. And you're seeing those stills right now. Most of them seem innocuous and black and just dark. You can't really see anything until you get to the final image, where you can just barely see the silhouette of a pointy-eared head, a cave critter's head, peeking from the ceiling above. Both of the armored guards that were there were bitten and taken into custody to be silenced, studied, and the cave critter itself was successfully unalived. So I guess they did succeed, but they both got bit in the process, and the cameraman got messed up. After this, the cover-up began, and this leaves us with now an unalived Todd, an unalived cameraman, 2 infected security guards, and all of that took place outside of the park boundaries. So it's not just inside the park anymore that you get bit. There could be an unknown amount of infected people outside of the park across the country. The video ends, and it takes us to the final video log of the series that we have so far. The final video being titled, 45 Feet Tall Walker Eats Campers. That sounds cool, right? Right? Now the video opens with Park Ranger Steve telling us how important it is to stay in the designated camping areas, because if you wander off, you might get eaten. He is then interrupted by a radio call from Alex with, again, more disturbing information. Alex is at a park ranger center, and he claims that a man just walked up to him from the woods who is just completely drenched in blood, covered from head to toe in it, and this man brings a really horrifying story. He claimed that himself and his 2 other friends were attacked by a walker off a trail in the woods. The second Steve hears this, he runs towards the camera, he turns it off, and he starts running back to the visitor center to hear what happened, to try to go investigate the scene, because this is like live, it's the attack that just happened. They gotta get on it right now to cover it. Steve and Alex, meet up, and then they go to investigate this trail, and they take off in search of the area where it happened. They do end up finding the campsite, which Alex says is about a mile off the trail. They start searching around the campsite for clues, only to notice that there is no tent there, which is weird for a campsite. But what they do find is a hotbed of coals from last night, and that music player that I was talking about earlier, The guys were just vibing music. It was still there playing music. That's how they found it. While they're searching the campsite, Alex tells Steve more information on what the man said happened to him and his friends. The bloody guy who walked up to Alex claimed that a walker reached into his tent, grabbed him and the tent. The walker, with tent and guy in hand, proceeds to yeet the guy over his shoulder like 30 feet in the air into the top of a tree like half a mile away. Like, this dude was just free falling in the air, landed in a tree inside the tent, and then proceeded to fall with the tent out of the tree and end up breaking his leg. At this point, we still don't know what happened to his other two friends. That'll be later on in the video. Now, all we know is that this guy was literally just yeeted by a walker, grabbed by one, thrown with him in the tent, like just a sack. Like, imagine just a giant holding a sack with a human in it, and that's what it was. And he literally just grabbed it and threw him over his shoulder, like falling through the air. Now, this attack is crazy because if you remember back to the original video of the walkers that was earlier in this video, I told you that walkers are typically warded off by fires. And if there's a fire, you're typically safe. That's what you think. Well, these people had a fire, and they weren't safe. Anyways, Alex and Steve, they're continuing to search around this immediate campsite area, and they stumble upon some very distressing signs. They find literally just human remains ripped to pieces all over the trees and the trail right in front of them, and it's just a giant bloody mess. The second they see these remains, they call in a team to come sweep the area, clear the remains, and get the cover-up process started, because they, again, don't want information getting out that you can't walk off the trail in this park. After searching around for a little bit, Steve finds a camera on the ground underneath a tree. While they're investigating this camera, Alex looks up in the tree that's above them, and he sees the tent that the guy was talking about up in the tree. Yeah, that's right, the same tent the guy fell out of 30 feet to the ground and broke his leg. Anyways, this camera has the crucial footage that was recorded by these guys of the attack, which is what the second half of the video is about. Let's watch it. So the footage starts with the three guys who are camping. They're walking on the trail, but it's getting dark, and they kind of just want to relax and call it a night early. The nearest campsite's a couple miles away, so one of them proposes to just walk off trail for a little bit of a mile, camp there. It won't be, nothing can go wrong, just a mile off trail, not too bad. Now, the man holding the camera is trepidatious. He says, I'm pretty sure that the park rangers were clear that we should not step off the trail, the designated area, this is not safe, there could be monsters out there. And then, of course, the other two friends do what two friends do, and they make fun of them. You pansy, let's just do it. It's three of us, what's going to happen to three guys? They end up walking off the trail, like I said, about a mile deep. They set up camp, they start this really nice fire, they get the music playing. It's actually a pretty calm vibe. They seem to be just relaxing and chilling, which dudes being dudes. They're relaxing until the music on the radio starts to turn into static. And of course, we know what the static means. These guys seemingly didn't. A few seconds after they start hearing the static, they hear what seems to be an earthquake, or rather a sequence of earthquakes. One of the guys says, "There's no earthquakes in Washington, dude." So these guys are, they're thinking earthquake's happening. They think that the ground's shaking. Well, the ground is shaking, but it's not an earthquake, obviously. It's the footsteps of a giant walker nearby. Anyways, they keep hearing more and more crashes, and they start to get freaked out because of these giant rumbling earthquakes that are happening. So all the friends start to walk towards the crash to examine what might be happening. They don't really know, so they want to see. One friend walks ahead of the group, and he starts searching around for a second, and he sees something. And the second he opens his mouth to yell, "Hey guys, there's something here," you can see the flashlight and him be picked up in the air, slammed down on the ground, and just ripped to pieces. You can see his flashlight just go straight up. It's actually really disturbing. These two guys are, freaked out. The guy and the cameraman are just screaming and hyperventilating. They run back to the campsite to get a flare gun and a firearm that they have on them. I mean, at least they're prepared for that. And while they're running back, the other guy that's not the cameraman gets grabbed from behind and smashed against the ground. The cameraman, of course, turns around and he examines what just happened, like the area around, and he sees both of his friends' remains just on the ground. He sees an arm and a leg and blood everywhere. And since the cameraman never dies, he runs back to the campsite to get to the backpack, to get the flare gun, and he's shaking, hyperventilating. Well, his friends just got smashed by a giant creature that he can't see. He shines his flashlight around, doesn't see anything, and then he just takes one last hope and just fires off a flare into the night in front of him. And this flare just barely illuminates the outline of the walker. Now the picture I'm showing you, I kind of upped the exposure a little bit so you can see it better, but you can just barely ever so slightly see it from the reflection of the flare gun on it. As you can see, it's a tall, almost invisible humanoid shape. It's just really high off the ground. Anyways, the cameraman sees it from the flare, freaks out, runs back to the tent and dives in, zips it up, and he hopes that for some reason the walker will go away and not attack him. He continues to hear massive thudding footsteps inching closer to his tent. He's hyperventilating, of course. How could you not be? And then finally, the tent crumbles and he feels himself being picked up off the ground, and then eventually, after being shaken a little bit, thrown like 50 feet in the air, landing in the top of a tree around 30 feet up. He gets literally thrown over the tops of the trees to the woods. Now, he's not on top of the tree for a long time because, of course, he falls out of the tent, down to the ground, and breaks his leg. Somehow, this dude survives, and when he comes to, he looks around. There's nothing out in the woods he can hear or see. So maybe the walker thought that he successfully killed this guy? We don't know. Anyways, the camera guy proceeds to walk all the rest of the night to the nearest park ranger station, where he finds Alex, and he tells him what just happened. He left the camera back when he fell out of the tree, and that's why he didn't have it on him when he went to the station, and that's exactly where Park Ranger Steve found it. And I'm glad he recorded it. That would be glory. And that is where the story is at currently. The last upload was just over a month ago, and I'm sure they're working on more right now. It's kind of getting more and more popular. But for now, that's the entire series. But it's not really. You see, Alex and Steve, which are their real names as well, have a website, the Buddy Films website, that we can explore and find some more clues and some more interesting hints at things that are happening. Let's check it out. So on the website, we can see the first park brochure for Woodlands National Park, and we can see a little thing under it that was not in the video. This seems to be a cipher of some sort. We see that it's located in the beautiful state of Washington, USA, and that it's open all year round. We can then see meet the head park rangers, it's Ranger Steve and Alex. That's where we can get their birth dates, and then when they start working at the Woodlands National Park. Nothing too interesting here, but where the plot thickens is if you scroll down even further, you can see more information on the creatures. So far in the series, we have cave critters, we have walkers, and we have wendigos. Those are the anomalous creatures that have been sighted and documented and told to us so far in the park. But if you scroll down to the picture of the walker entity that's here, you can see a QR code in the bottom right-hand corner, and by scanning this QR code, you'll be linked to a private video with a cipher. Now, using that QR code, we can decipher exactly what this cryptic message here means. See, this brochure says the park was founded by 3193, parentheses 3, exclamation mark, tree, plus, Dyer Corporation, 6. That sounds like I'm mentally insane, but I promise you it means something. That actually translates to a man named Abraham Woods. So the park was founded by Abraham Woods. Who is Abraham Woods? What does it mean? I don't know, but in the description box of the private video, it says, "Congrats, you found it. You can now expose the park." So we know we started the park back in the early 1900s, Abraham Woods, but me personally, I haven't been able to find anybody that was from Washington or anybody of significance named Abraham Woods that would mean anything. Now, there are other things on the cipher that could be useful in the rest of the series. Maybe we don't have all the information we need yet, but I do think it's interesting, or as the one commenter on the secret video says, that the names of the Dyer Corporation and Nancy and John, they correlate with each other's picture. So the N is Nancy's face, the J is John's face, the Dyer Corporation logo is D, and so on and so forth. I'm sure this will be useful more and more as the series progresses, but since we don't have all the videos yet, I can only decipher Abraham Woods is the creator. Don't even know what that means yet. I mean, I've searched. I don't know if you guys have any information on it. Do the comments below, let me know. But as far as I know, the park was founded by Abraham Woods. That's what I've deciphered. The rest of the website is just pretty much more and more of the pamphlets explaining the walkers and the cave critters and the wendigos and things like that. And like I said, I'm sure that more will come. So Woodlands National Park, an anomalous park with crazy creatures, weird government cover-ups, strange diseases. It's all there. I cannot wait for more episodes to come out. Seriously, there's infinite possibilities where this could go. It really tickles all the ARG tickle bone. It just tickles my fancy. It really does. And it really has me on the edge of my seat waiting for more. in all the sense of those words. It really does. I hope my explanations and summarizations didn't sound like hieroglyphics to you. You know, I tried my best to summarize it in a simple to understand way, but like I said, you have to check out the original series to get the full grasp. I absolutely love this series so far, and I just cannot wait for it to continue. It really encapsulates all things that I personally love, that I'm interested in, like the woods and national parks and cover-ups, also with weird, horrifying entities and creatures that aren't really understood, but they still link back to real life lore, like Wendigos and these invisible walkers and stuff. It always just really tickles my fancy bone, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, real life national parks, they're really shady. And I feel like this ARG and this horror series that Alex and Steve have created really do an amazing job of conveying how shady they are and how, in the depths and the lengths that they'll go to cover up things. You know, the real-life national parks would never, you know, come out and say, your friend was killed by a Wendigo, or your friend was abducted by an alien. They'll never say that. But nonetheless, thousands of people still go missing in them, never to be seen again. And people don't just vanish. You know, there's going to be remains somewhere. The truth is out there, and this series does an amazing job of showing us how that can be done back in the 70s. Plus, I just really like the creature designs and just the filming and everything. It is all just so perfect. I really enjoy it. Seriously, go check out Buddy Films, watch all their stuff. It's fantastic. I cannot wait to see what they have in store. And I hope that you'll be tuning into their series as it progresses. And if there is more that comes out, I will make a part 2. I just wanted to jump on this before. I've seriously been watching it like a ton. I really enjoyed it. I'm sure you all have a lot to say about it, a lot of theories and stuff. Make sure to comment in the comments below. This was a very long video, and I apologize. This is way longer than my normal stuff. But if you want more, drop a like. I'll be glad to do it. Thank you for your support here on this channel. Now, this is my 3rd channel, and you know, it's more of a passion project channel, and I'm really glad that you all have enjoyed the videos I've been posting. Seriously, it's really been awesome to have this community coming up over here, and I hope you're here to stay. I can't wait to make more videos like this about internet horror and mystery and just all that kind of stuff. I love it. Thanks so much for watching. I love and appreciate each and every one of you. Tell somebody that you love them, because life is too short not to. And I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.
We're live!
How tantalizing. Games, rated PG-13.
I turn it up another notch. I rock it out and make it hot. I start the punch, make it pop. Don't stop.
IHG Hotels and Resorts, 18 hotel brands, 6,000 global destinations, one loyalty program that lets you guest how you guest.
I would never in my life share the story were I not forced to do so. I've never told anyone. Only 2 living people know the truth, but I've been forced into a corner and I need advice. If you'd like to try turning me into the police for the events recounted in this post, feel free, but know that this account is carefully maintained as to be untraceable to my true identity. You may think it's impossible. Nothing on the internet is anonymous, but I assure you, it is not only possible, but easy, if you know who to ask. If, however, you have a sound moral compass and can acknowledge that law does not always equal righteousness, please give me advice. Anything at this point is welcome. I still remember that night like it was just past, when it happened years ago. I was tortured with nightmares on a regular basis, at least 5 times a week throughout the past month. My son, who had heard me screaming at night from his room down the hall, kept asking what was wrong. I didn't know how to tell him. Now, however, I worry that the metaphorical bullseye on my chest is on his. I'm getting ahead of myself. I told you I was having nightmares about the event that other night. And I was. So many times a week, I believe I can recount them to you in relatively sound detail. And it's something like this. My truck chases its headlights down the highway as I watch the car in front of me. I barely blink, intent on keeping track of a Honda. Nothing matters except the car in front of me, my target. Within my car and it, there are only 2 types of people, victim and survivor. So to be determined who fits into what category. The car switches lanes, so do I, but a moment later. Can't lose this car, but I also can't let on that I'm following it. The man driving in front of me has a good reason to be wary. I've been watching for quite a while, learning the ins and outs of his travels, and by now I suspect his wind is up. There's no good reason to believe so, but I've relied on my intuition for much of my life. As soon as I realized doing otherwise was nonsensical and often dangerous, I made it a regular practice, and my gut's telling me he's spooked, like a hunted animal. With any luck, he'll disregard that little voice warning him that something is off. I have a feeling he's too comfortable, too arrogant to listen to it, but I can't bank on it. But extra care is key. The car exits the highway and turns onto a narrow dirt road. I stop at the gas station just before the turnoff. Now I know where he's headed. There's no need to follow closely and give myself away. I don't have time to get settled in and cozy. Let his guard go down. I go inside and buy a cup of coffee, black as mirror, and the clerk looks at me like I'm insane. Buying coffee at 11 at night. I stand on my cash, make my way back outside without waiting for my change. My watch says it's 11:05. When did the Honda turn? About 5 minutes ago? Are the driver and his traveling companion in the cabin in the woods yet? Probably. Will they be prepared for my appearance? Well, only time will tell. But I don't think so. At 8 past 11, I get back in my truck and start the engine. I pull out of the stop and go, and flick my blinker on and turn down the same path we Gord took. The darkness of trees engulfs me, as if shielding the world outside of the woods from the carnage about to take place. I park about a half a mile from the cabin to avoid detection. I lift up the tarp in the back of my truck and peruse the tools there. I run my hands over a saw. No. Sawing the throat open seems a bit too much trouble, too messy. A drill, maybe? No. Somehow that's not right either. I have each weapon test its weight in my hand and how it feels in my grip until I reach a pair of hedge clippers. The feeling in my gut warms up. This is it. After I stick a handgun and a can of starter fluid in my pocket for insurance, I slide the set of hedge clippers into my waistband and I jog for the cabin, breathing the sharp, freezing air and feeling my heart do the jitterbug in my chest. And the coffee was a mistake. At least now I know better, although it does me little good in my current situation. I walk to the back of the cabin and find the wires attaching in place to various amenities. I got the phone line with the clippers. Now I'm effectively alone. I walk back around to the front of the cabin, hands shaking, and peer through the window and see inside. A feeble fire flickers in the grate. About to go out, a portly man crouches in front of it, trying to build it with matches and twigs. A boy sits in the armchair in the corner of the room, watching the man stoke the fire. He's an absolutely beautiful boy, beautiful enough to take my breath away. A head of hair, it's fiery red with the phoenix feathers. Hustling, untidy, fair skin unmarred by scars of acne, but doused with a spray of freckles across the bridge of the nose, wide amber eyes, shining in the meek light of the excuse of a fire on the other side of the room. And not seeing the boy, all I can think about is seeing his beauty up close. My heart swells in my chest, my blood runs hot, this is why I'm here. This boy. And I'll kill anyone who stands in my way. The man at the fire, Jamie, is his name, turning and smiles. He speaks, and although his voice is muffled through the glass, I can still hear what he's saying. Why don't you go upstairs, Robin? There's a heater in the bedroom. And close the door. I don't want the warmth anymore. Then I'd be catching a cold. The boy rises and drags his feet up the stairs. His face as long as Tolstoy's War and Peace as he disappears into the second floor. I step towards the door and knock. Not that. So I hear the man rise with a grunt and creak the floorboards. I stick my hand in my pocket and wrap my fingers around the pistol. I doubt I'll need it, but still. Just in case. Steps towards the door. Crump, 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 crump. Sound of the door too comfortable, and its frame shifting as he turns the doorknob, a pair of wide eyes staring at me as I analyze his face, and then I smile. He tries to shut me out, but I stick my foot between the door and the door frame. Hello, Jamie. You know who I am? When it becomes clear that he can't overpower me, the idiot actually backs up, allowing me to open the door and step into the warmth of the cabin. Of course I know who you are. I'm calling the police. He runs to the phone and puts the receiver to his ear, and I laugh. Go ahead, try it. See what good it does you. Puts the phone down. He's heard the silence that signifies a deadline. You're not supposed to be here. You don't have custody of Robin, Lisa, and I do. Yeah. Well. I'm here anyway. Tell Lisa to take the course on me. That is if he lives, which is unlikely. I don't care. I step towards him. He backs away again, but he's almost against the wall. There's no escape. A rush of hatred hits me. This little rat of a man, as thick and consuming as a mudslide. I let go of the hand out of my pocket, instead reach for the hedge clippers that I tucked in my waistband, relishing the surety of the handle's rubber grip against my palm. A handgun's too quick for the likes of him. I won't let him. I don't want him to suffer. I don't have all the time in the world. No one's coming to his rescue, and he certainly isn't leaving. I snip the clippers in my hand and smile as Jamie begins to scream. Snip, snip. What a lovely sound. Don't. I swear I'll what? He doesn't answer, and I position the clippers against his large stomach. Feel what? Right. Please. You brought this on yourself, you sick bastards. Shit, shit. Like cutting paper. Except for blood. As he's on the floor, I turn him over to hide his destroyed abdomen and toss the clippers on top of his body and look up the staircase. The boy. Robin. He's peering down the first floor from around the corner. I strip off my blood-stained jacket and my favorite hoodie. What a shame. Come here. Staring at me with wide eyes, he peeps down the stairs like a scared animal. I wipe my hands on my ruined sweatshirt and crack his cheeks. Over. It's over. It's over. The golden eyes. So much like his mother. Over too. It's it? I smile. Yeah. Robin, it's over. I promise. But don't. You hit that. Then stop speaking. Seemingly at a loss for words. Don't what? Don't believe it? He nods, his cheeks wet. Look. I'm turning towards the body line several feet to his right. He's gone. And we're about to burn this place down with him inside, so nobody has to know about it then. Go outside, wait a few feet away from the house. I'll be there in a minute. He exits the house. Wiping his tears with the heels of his hand, I put the can of starter fluid in my pocket and spread its contents around the room, especially over Jamie. Then I make a trail right to the fire. I'm barely out of the house before the flames whoosh into life, bringing the light and warmth of the cold, dark night. We walk to the truck. Robin's so tired he's stumbling, and he needs me to guide him with a hand on his back. When we reach the vehicle, climbs in like a warm, torn soldier, floating under the seat and closing his eyes. As I start the engine, he asks, "Yes? How did you know?" "No what?" "How did you know your feet?" "But..." He can't bring himself to say that he'd been molested on multiple occasions in that cabin. But that's okay. I already know. Like that feeling. In me, it's so strong it's almost more of a supernatural power, a true sixth sense. And that typical intuition. Once I leaned in to listen to it, I could never be fooled again, and that included every time I saw my son and he told me that he was fine when he wasn't. I hold him and I hug him close. He had tears away. Don't worry about it, honey. Just close your eyes. Go to sleep. 5 minutes after. And 5 minutes after we start driving, it's snowing. Thus, the first portions of my night now went. They were, in case you were wondering, about the events that took place. My ex-wife, Lisa mentioned above, is a part of my dreams, married a pedophile who molested my son on multiple occasions, and after I found out, I killed him. Before anyone asked, no, I didn't go to the law because I've been in considerable legal trouble in the past, and I know the police wouldn't have done a damn thing to stop him. Killing him seemed the safest route, and so far it's proven to be. His disappearance was chalked up to a running off with a younger woman. Police always assumed Robin Gaunt Jr. never brought his disappearance to the authorities. She never wanted a child anyway. Robin had been in an accident, and she had never cared for him, only taking custody of him to spite me, and Robin and I had lived quiet lives together in a small town. Quiet it was until my nightmares began a month ago. I've recounted the first portion of my dreams to you, and while some of you, maybe even the majority of you, may believe the reliving of those events is enough to terrify me, it isn't. I'm not sorry for what I did to Jim, because he had it coming. It was the second part of those nightmares that froze my heart in my chest. I wake up from the dream of Jamie's death, thanking God that my son is safe and sound, however the smile dies on my lips before it has the opportunity to blossom. Something's wrong. The smell of blood and smoke pervades the room. I sit up in bed, my heart beating. It's pulsing in my throat. God forbid there's a fire in the house. I swing my legs out of bed to go check on the house for a fire, and a charred hand latches onto my ankle. It's blistering hot, but it's not why I scream. I scream because the thing pulling itself out from under my bed behind the hand, its leering, empty grin, its smoking skin, even in its destroyed state, I know that face. No, Ralph. You know who I am. God, dude. I let my ankle from its grip and run, but he grabs it again, and I trip and I fall on my frenzy. He towers over me, so weak in life, yet strong after death, his burning hands descending onto my throat. And that got hours with him, sweating in the shadows. The first time I had a nightmare, I assumed it was a random flare-up of guilt years late. I thought maybe I had repressed the emotions and was only feeling it now because I couldn't help but gush out. I walked out into the kitchen and intended to pour myself a glass of bourbon to calm my nerves, and I caught sight of a pair of bloody hedge clippers in the countertop. My blood frozen, I walked over and I picked them up. They were warm, and the handles had singe marks on them. I was concerned then that it was more than just repressed guilt causing nightmares. I threw them out before Ralph stumbled upon them, but their message stayed with me. Furthermore, that message was reinforced throughout the months that I had nightmares by way of other signs, the smell of smoke, thick and noxious, at random points in the house, a constant feeling of being watched wherever I went, but especially when I was with Robin. As if something was jealous. I did my best to shake it off, but at night, after Robin was in bed, I always feared sleep. For a month I endured those nightmares without a clue of what they meant, except that they meant nothing good. They could have meant my death, or the hands of Jamie's angry spirit. They could have meant my prevention of me sleeping soundly for the rest of my life. They could have been an omen of my secret getting out. Whatever the case, I had no idea what to do and didn't plan on taking action. My last nightmare, which happened 3 days ago, was different from the others, and persuaded me to do otherwise. All followed the script that had been established. The remembrance of the incident in question, the fake awakening, Jamie's hand clamping down on my ankle. This time, however, rather than closing the grip around my throat, Jamie just hovered over me, smiling, smirking. I could feel the heat from his body baking, drying out my eyes, and finally he said, I want that boy. I want that boy. And I'll have him. Jamie's been very tired lately. I wake up sometimes at night and he's screaming, and I ask him what's wrong, and he just says he's not sleeping. How do you like that? And I ask him what about who I answer, but that intuition of mine. That intuition of mine knowing what he's not telling me. My own safety becoming questionable wasn't enough to spur me to action. Robin's safety coming into question, however. Okay, keep that boy safe once and I'll do whatever it takes to keep him safe again. Any suggestions on how to defeat a vengeful spirit? Would be greatly appreciated. I have to post this story everywhere I can. If it makes you see it, maybe a few of you will understand what's happened to me. That's all I need. Someone has to understand. The shoes are on my couch this evening. That's only a picture of my face. There's a whole person's weight on them. I burned them, but I wanted it twice. When I called my friends about it, they just laughed at me. Like I'm trying to string them along with some stupid joke. They're too busy to come over anyway, since it's so close to finals week. And that leaves me alone with these shoes. Here's what happened. The whole process. I should write it down so that maybe some people out there might see the logic in it. Maybe there's a chance that some of you have heard about it before, but please don't attempt to do this yourself. It's terrible, but it's real, and I just want people to understand what I'm going through. Last semester, a guy in my theology class was talking about some pagan traditions, power words, special witch recipes, and stuff of that sort. He knew a lot on account of it being the subject of his term paper, and he told me that he knew even more that he'd done some extra research in an archive at the city library. He found records of a ritual that supposedly hadn't been put in practice since the 1600s. And he told me the steps. This brings me back to the shoes. They had to be 11 inches in length, about the length of most size 11 men's shoes. The type of shoe didn't matter as far as he knew. They were to be placed on a basement floor at least 1 story underground, with the heels together and the toes pointed somewhere about 30 degrees apart. I really don't get why any of these details matter. Maybe some of you guys out there will understand it better. Still, I did exactly as the rules said. I just wanted to see if anything might happen. I even snapped a picture of the shoes on my phone, just in case. Hopefully you guys can see the shoes. There was one other item I had to bring, a large pitcher full of dirt. I took it from my backyard and I brought it downstairs with me, feeling stupid to going through with this. After placing the shoes, I spread the dirt around them in a thick circle. Exactly how thick wasn't specified, so I just made it about a few inches around on all sides. As I spread the dirt, I repeated this sort of chant that the guy had told me. Wake up, Mr. Strider. Wake up, Mr. Strider. And for the life of me, I can't think of a single person with the name Strider.